Into that sunnier conditions across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and it will be a warm and sunny morning to come across England and Wales. The sunshine is strong at this time of the year, so quickly lifting those temperatures as we go through the course of the morning into the mid to high 20s. And by the afternoon, well, it will be hot, even hotter than over the weekend. Temperatures into the low 30s for some of us, perhaps peaking at around 33 to 34 degrees Celsius in the southeast of England by the afternoon. You'll need to head to the coast for some refreshing sea breezes, where we could see temperatures a few degrees lower. But it will be a warmer day for Northern Ireland and southern Scotland compared to over the weekend. Temperatures here perhaps into the mid-20s too. For Tuesday, the rain clears away from northwest Scotland, so a much brighter day to come here. It will be a fresher day, though, to come for some North Sea coastal regions. Temperatures dropping by 8 to 10 degrees perhaps here, but another hot one in the south. Temperatures once again approaching the mid-30s Celsius in central and southeastern England. A fine week of weather to come, but not quite as hot. Temperatures returning to the mid-20s.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
£76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash could be yours this summer. That's totally tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And remember, because it's totally tax-free cash, you'll get to keep every single penny for a chance to win. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning, hope you're well. Live from Washington DC, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
They think that they are getting very close to making a deal.
A peace deal has been agreed in principle, according to reports, but final approval by both sides, the US and Iran, could take days. Are we close to seeing peace in the Middle East? Well, I'll speak to one of President Trump's former advisors in just a second.
In Dover, it's been another busy day for the Border Force processing another 222 small boat migrant arrivals, according to our GB News provisional figures today.
Well, that takes the grand total of migrants making the perilous journey to the UK this weekend to more than 900. Can you believe it? And guess what? The good weather back home in Blighty is only going to get better, meaning there'll be more. Lucky you. I'll speak to a former immigration minister who could maybe give Labour a little bit of advice on what to do. And great story this. Did the CIA poison England's greatest ever goalkeeper, Gordon Banks? Because that's what a podcast has investigated. I'll be joined in just a moment by one of the hosts and Gordon's grandson himself. I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. Good morning. Hope you've had a really good bank holiday weekend. The fun resumes, of course, on Monday. Joining me in Washington this evening is my panel, foreign correspondent Sarah Firth and the Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson, and in London, GBNews contributor Paul Cox. Hello, Paul. Hope you're well. We'll catch up later on in the show. Right. There he is. Nice salute. Right, let's move on to our main news this evening, and it's all eyes on the Middle East because President Trump says negotiations with Iran are proceeding constructively, but he's told his representatives not to rush into a deal. He added the US blockade on Iranian ports will remain in full force until an agreement is reached. And writing on Truth Social, the US president says Tehran must understand they simply cannot have a nuclear weapon. Reports say the agreement would include a 60-day ceasefire, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is crucial, and a commitment not to further its nuclear program. However, the New York Times is tonight reporting a deal has been agreed in principle, but the final approval of leaders from both sides could take days, citing a senior US official. The deal, as I said, would reopen the Strait of Hormuz and commit Iran to disposing of its highly enriched uranium. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio gave an update during a trip to India.
The question is about the Iranian issue, and as I said, there's been some progress done, some progress made. Even as I speak to you now, there's some work being done. There is a chance that whether it's later today, tomorrow, in a couple days, we may have something to say, but this issue needs to be solved, as the president has said, one way or the other. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. The straits need to be opened without tolls.
With me now is former National Security Council Chief of Staff to President Trump, Fred Fleet. Fred, great to see you again on The Late Show Live. Thanks for your company. I'll be completely honest with you, Fred, and yeah, I have to be honest. I can only be honest. I am a bit tired of this Iran saga. And will we get a deal? Will we not get a deal? Will we resume hostilities? Just give me your honest assessment, Fred. Are we close, or is this more pointless conjecture?
I think we're closer, but I'm a little bit concerned. President Trump wants to get out of this war. He's achieved his objectives. It looks like we have a deal in principle where hostilities will end. The Strait of Hormuz will be cleared. There'll be no tolls. Negotiations will continue to address other issues such as missiles and the nuclear program. What worries me is that everything we're hearing from the president seems to have been contradicted by the Revolutionary Guard. This is a broken government. It's fighting with itself, and I'm a little worried that whatever was negotiated by Trump's people and whoever they found in the Iranian government to talk, that the entire government may not stick to it. I think that's a real important issue here, but we're getting to the point where this is going to be the best offer. If Iran doesn't agree with this, they'll get nothing, and hostilities will resume.
There is some confusion, though, Fred, because some sources are citing tonight that Iran will agree to give up its uranium, or at least not pursue the threshold for a nuclear weapon. And other sources are saying that the Iranian regime are saying absolutely not. That is not on the table at all. So who are we to believe?
You know, I don't really know where that stands. My view is we don't need that enriched uranium. We should leave it in the ground. Let's bomb the heck out of it and monitor it with satellites. I'm sort of skeptical that the Iranians will actually give it up. Now, the Trump administration thinks they will. That would be great. I'd like to see that out of there. But even if Iran could somehow dig this stuff up, all the facilities they would need to make that into bomb fuel have all been destroyed, as well as the experts they would need to make a bomb. So they're nowhere near getting a nuclear bomb. I'd feel safer if we had that stuff. But as Trump has also said, we actually don't need it right now.
Also, Fred, the one sort of thing top of my mind is the regime itself, because I seem to remember, I mean, this started in February, didn't it, the conflict initially. I seem to remember President Trump's call to the Iranian people was uprise and overthrow your government, overthrow your regime. That doesn't really seem to be talked about anymore. I think it's being accepted now that the Islamist regime is staying in place, is it?
The remnants of Khamenei's regime is certainly in place. There's no doubt about that, but it's been significantly weakened. They're staying in power by the barrel of a gun and by throttling and closing down the internet. The people will never forgive this government for the execution of 40,000 or more innocent Iranians who were protesting for freedom earlier this year. I think one day the Iranian people will take down this government. It's been significantly weakened. I just have to hope that day is very soon.
Okay, Fred, really appreciate your company as always. Thank you so much, Fred Fleets. We'll catch up again soon. With me in DC is my panel, Sarah Firth and Simon Hankinson. Hello, guys. Welcome along.
Hi, Ben.
Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Sarah, I am a bit concerned about this because I just think of the Iranian protesters who took to the streets in their tens of thousands, 30-odd thousand were slaughtered. I suggest, maybe I'm wrong, if you ask them are they happy with how this looks like it's concluding, I'd think they say no.
I mean, I couldn't agree more, Ben. I'm so glad that you mentioned it because I feel like it's been missing from the discourse over the last week or so, is that was the original focus, right? And it was part of what President Trump had said as the sort of background context for why he made the decision he did. And yet here we are, more than 80 days later, you have the same regime, not just in power, but potentially strengthened. The Strait of Hormuz has not been reopened yet. Before this all started, it was open. And I think there is a real and very serious discussion to be had. Like, even if we get this deal, and it remains to be seen because at the moment the US and Iran, both sides are again stating very different things publicly, even though President Trump has said that it's close. But, you know, we've got all this talk of strategy, deterrence, significant progress. And yet for the people of Iran, they are watching their regime having been potentially strengthened and all that entails. And so I think the question is going to be, even if there is a deal, you know, you hear President Trump and Marco Rubio and various US Republican senators, you know, singing America's praises for taking this strong military action. But what has it actually achieved? And more importantly, could that not have been achieved through diplomacy? Because remember, when they struck for the first time in February, there was a diplomatic track that had already been started. So I think you're absolutely right. The Iranian people are being massively overlooked in the current discourse, number one. And number two, I think there's a real argument that this military action has not only not achieved much militarily, but has actually put Iran and its people in a more difficult, the regime in a stronger position.
Simon, apparently the proposed deal reportedly offers Iran sanctions relief of around £15 billion, $20 billion, most of which is tied up in Qatar. Trump has taken to Truth Social to say this deal is the exact opposite of the one agreed by Barack Obama, the one Trump withdrew from in 2018.
Well,
is that a US win?
I mean, you would obviously expect the President and the Secretary of State to spin this in the most positive way possible. I do think something was achieved, which is a little credibility. I mean, the Iranians have been kidnapping people. They've been blowing up American soldiers. They have been basically fighting a Cold War, a hot war, but a secret war against us for almost 50 years. And this is the first time they've learned that we can actually bite back hard.
But they're still in place, Simon.
I realize that.
I know lots of the top brass have gone. The former Ayatollah have gone, but you've still got the son, assuming he is alive and he's not been blown up as well. We don't know. But
look, as Mick Jagger said, you don't always get what you want, right? You get the deal that you can get. And right now, maybe the regime stays in place. And I'm sure if you polled the Iranian people, which of course you can't do because they don't have any press freedom or internet freedom, maybe a majority would say we'd like to get rid of the regime. But maybe a significant proportion of them still supports them. So for the time being, the deal that we need is one that gets gas prices down. So that the president is looking in better shape in November at his party. And that's political. And then from a national security point of view, we need to make sure that Iran does not have a path to nuclear weapons. That's it.
Do you know one other thing, sorry, Ben, that's been massively overlooked is, you don't always get what you want, but it's remarkable that in this current discourse again, the US has gone in, carried out this military action. A reminder again, I was watching the last week as Admiral Brad Cooper, the head of CENTCOM of course, gave his testimony in front of Congress, and he was asked about the school bombing. More than 150 people killed, 100 school children.
Well, they said they were investigating.
They said they're investigating, but it is on record, US officials who have worked in the Pentagon have said this is really unusual by Pentagon standards for all this time later, the parents of those children to have no answers. They haven't had any accountability for it. And again, coming back to, the point you made something about gas prices being low. They were low before they took the military action. There was a diplomatic track, there were talks ongoing. Oman was saying, look, it's going in the right direction. They've carried out these military strikes. They are now responsible in investigating potentially the bombing of a school and school children. And we haven't, you're saying the aims are to lower gas prices, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That was already happening before the bombing campaign started.
That's not the aim. That's a domestic political factor that has to be weighed in. But
what is the aim then? What is the main aim?
I don't think the talks were going anywhere. I think the Iranians have been stringing this out as long as they can. Why are they enriching uranium, like a mile underground for medical purposes? They can use that to make, isotopes for some kind of a machine in a hospital? No. They were clearly working towards a weapons program because they want to have what North Korea has, and that was intolerable, not just to the United States, but to most of the Western world. Every other country was on board with this. They just weren't prepared to take the necessary action.
So if they can get that uranium, which is being mooted as part of this agreement, is that job done? Is that satisfactory?
Well, I mean, if you factor in the reality that it's likely going to be going to Russia, I mean, I don't know if that's job done, if that makes the world a safer place.
Uranium?
The uranium. There are reports
why would it go to Russia?
Possibly that's where it would be transported.
Russia has all they need. I mean, they've already got,
they'd be the
3,000 ICBMs.
to trap that the Iranians might consider acceptable to transport the uranium and take a hold of it. But we're all here in Washington.
Better with the Russians than the Iranians, no? The IRGC despots.
Possibly, but look, again, we come back to, is this not something that could have been achieved via a diplomatic track? And we are all here in Washington, D.C., and we're having this conversation now. I think it's really interesting. You say lowering gas prices is not the aim now. What is the aim? Like, do we even all agree? Has the administration laid out an aim?
The nuclear weapon, the uranium, that's why I asked.
I heard the US Secretary of State in India speaking, right? He said the main aim remains the same, that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, right? Never have a nuclear weapon, at least as long as President Trump is president. Well, that's 2 years, so fantastic.
No, but that's always...
I mean, that's the length of time that most experts would say you need to get a deal in place.
That's always been our goal. It's not like this is a Trump-only thing. The United States does not want Iran. Iran has said death to America, death to Israel. When a country is making threats like that, you simply can't let them have weapons of mass destruction.
Okay. Paul Cox, are you there? You've been sitting patiently on the sidelines. Do you think the president would have taken the current situation in when he first launched these strikes in February the 28th, if you'd gone to him and said, this is what it's going to look like some months later, will you accept this, President? Do you think he'd be happy with the conclusion that we are possibly seeing on the horizon?
My gut feel is actually no, he wouldn't. It's difficult to answer that, though, because the measurement of success has never really been defined. I know that there were 5 pillars or 7 pillars of milestones that Donald Trump was trying to achieve. However, I think there was only one victory here, and that would be removing the IRGC. They have, however, Donald Trump, that is, in the US, and I'm very glad they have, managed to deplete Iran in terms of its military capability in the short to medium term. That's fantastic. And if they can get a deal that says they don't have a nuclear weapon, also fantastic. But who are they doing a deal with? Will it stand up to scrutiny? And if it stands up to scrutiny, will it hold water? Sorry for all the cliches, but we are in a position now, and I really wanted Donald Trump to do this. Seriously, I wanted Donald Trump to do this. However, coming out of it with a deal that makes them look like they're in the same position as they were when they started, it's difficult to call it a success, Ben.
Well, I guess if they get hold of the enriched uranium and Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, I guess that is more than they had when they started. And, maybe it doesn't look like the Iranian people wanted it to look like in February. However, I guess you can give the administration credit for trying, because nobody's tried really since the late 70s. So at least they've had some balls about them, the administration, and gone for it.
So all that said, and I felt like I needed to say that, because it's not, I'm a Trump fan, and I often say very positive things. I'm remaining fairly neutral on this because I'm not too sure how much has been achieved. But you're absolutely right with one point, and that's that Donald Trump is one president that said he would do something and did. you only have, you know, every previous president to him going right the way back to the Bush era, a junior, they said they were going to do something. They didn't do something. Iran have been responsible for endless terrorist attacks across the world under different proxies since that time. So arguably Iran have lots and lots of blood on their hands and nobody's done anything about it. But I'm not sure what's happened now is ultimately going to do anything about it. It might solve the nuclear problem for medium to long term, but it's not going to solve the terrorist proxy issue.
Yeah, OK, well said. GBNews.com/you'll say. Let me know, viewers. I am slightly, as you can probably tell, slightly fatigued from the Iran situation. Until we get a bona fide deal or a resumption of military action, I'll then get a bit more interested. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
In Dover, it's been another busy day for the border force processing another 222 small boat migrant arrivals, according to our GB News provisional figures today.
Well, you lucky so-and-sos back home in Britain, you've had some pretty balmy weather the last couple of days, I hear. But that means the grand total of migrants taking advantage of that over the weekend across the Channel is more than 900. And guess what? The good weather is only getting better. I'll speak to a former immigration minister who can maybe give Labour some advice, or maybe not, on what to do about it. This is The Late Show Live. Back in a sec.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News can exclusively reveal that 220 small boat migrants arrived across the Channel today. Lucky you. Our reporter Will Godley has been at Dover for us today.
In Dover, it's been another busy day for the Border Force, processing another 222 small boat migrant arrivals, according to our GBNews provisional figures today. Now, those migrants arrived on 3 small boats, all 3 of them intercepted at the halfway mark of the Channel by British Border Force vessels, where they are then swapped over to those vessels and brought in for processing here in Dover. Now, those 3 small boats all set off from the French beaches earlier on today, one of them from Wimereux Beach and 2 of them from the Dunkirk area. And the process is the same. Once they're in the water, they are escorted by French naval vessels up to that halfway mark when the British Border Force vessels pick them up and bring them in here for processing. But it's been a busy bank holiday weekend for the Border Force. 222 small boat migrant arrivals today, but follows 287 yesterday and 394 on Friday. So more than 900 after those 3 days. And that basically doubles the total for May so far. In the first 9 days, there were 1,000 small boat migrant arrivals. Now another 900 this weekend. And with the weather continuing, no doubt more forecast and could be on the way tomorrow. The government, though, would point out that the numbers crossing this year compared to last year have drastically fallen, but there could be more on the way this bank holiday weekend.
Cool. Doesn't the weather look glorious back home in Britain? It's been grey and miserable here in DC. Anyway, I'm not jealous. That comes as migrants' wills report are said to be scrambling for British citizenship ahead of an expected looming crackdown. More than 312,000 refugees, migrant workers and dependents applied for citizenship to Britain in March this year. It's a record. It represents the highest number on record and double that of 8 years ago. With me now is former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster. Kevin, good morning. Thank you for your company. The boats keep coming. The gangs, I guess, aren't being smashed. But more concerningly is this record amount of migrants trying to apply for citizenship. 312 in just to March this year, because they all know that basically the door is going to be slammed shut under Labour's new proposals or new legislation, and they're all rushing to get in. It's a bit of a concern.
Yeah, in terms of citizenship, it's worth noting that if someone's had indefinite leave to remain for a year, which the proposal is to extend that, but Labour's plan wouldn't affect those who've already got indefinite leave to remain. After a year, you can apply for citizenship. I suspect some of this may also reflect some of the political debate that's been going on. And, you know, people don't just sit there and hear, for example, Reform has said they would abolish indefinite leave to remain. People don't just sit there, hear that and do nothing. A lot of people with ILR will almost certainly look to convert to be a British citizen between now and the next election. But looking at the scenes at Dover today, you know, sadly, the Immigration Minister in the Home Office is always the one hoping for wind and rain rather than a nice sunny day, because that's what makes a big difference in terms of the Channel. And obviously earlier this year, we've seen storms, we've seen bad weather in the Channel. Yes, the numbers are down on last year, but I think it's probably worth quickly saying they're quite comparable to what the position was at this time of year in 2023. So before we get too excited that there's been a big drop in this issue, actually last year, the reason numbers perhaps have dropped is partly because last year they were very high and had gone up compared to the year before. So there's a lot of work to be done here. And when you say in the intro, you know, what could be done about this, really, the British government needs to look at the 2 countries that have made a successful strategy to deal with a problem like this. One's Australia, the other's where you're sat, the United States, in relation to its southern border. And that's not done with a slogan, it's done with a wider strategy.
Do you think they want to stop the quote-unquote small boats, Kevin?
I think some do. I think there are many backbench Labour MPs, you know, who subscribe to the idea that somehow there's some great persecution and war people are fleeing in France. But there are, I think, increasingly many of them who do realise that this is absolutely toxic for them politically. You know, you've only got to look at what happened in Sunderland, Wigan, Barnsley, places like that in the local elections to see, you know, the political price Labour's now paying for these types of scenes. And there are, I think, some in the Labour Party, particularly perhaps the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood that gets that if they don't want to have an election fought over immigration, and if it is fought over immigration, that isn't going to turn out well for the Labour Party. They need to solve this issue. And that does mean a more comprehensive strategy. It almost certainly means looking at the sort of Gordian knot of international law from the ECHR, the Refugee Convention, the Statelessness Convention, that are mostly written about 60, 70 years ago in the aftermath of World War II, but are now being quite relentlessly gamed by everyone from economic migrants effectively choosing to come to the UK rather than claim asylum in France, and convicted criminals who don't want to leave the UK when they are told to do so, who then discover all sorts of family ties that they have to this country to try and avoid being removed.
You do say that about Shabana Mahmood. However, she has formed. She was videoed on the beaches of Lesbos in Greece, welcoming in migrants into Europe at some point, handing out life jackets, as far as I remember watching that clip. She's spoken previously about supporting a general amnesty for illegals who are already in the UK as a backbench MP, maybe around 2028, 2029. She's opposed certain deportations in 2020. She called on the Tories, I think maybe your government at the time, to halt a deportation flight. I just don't...
Yeah, it's me who had to defend that particular letter she sent, yeah. Yeah, it's me who had to deal with that particular letter.
So what's changed? What's changed? Because I can't change my political views are not just views that change with the winds. It's more of an ideology. And actually, if you want to get deep about it, it's quite spiritual as well. It's about the protection of your country and your people and your culture and your identity. I can't just change my views on something within a couple of years like that. So what's changed aside from the fact she's now Home Secretary?
Yeah, you're right, Bren. Well, you're a principled person who wants to stick with what you believe in. I think what's changed is Labour's seeing the political price they're paying for this, and if they're going to try and get any public consent for welfare changes, for some of the types of changes they might need to make in the wider set of public spending to get that under control, they're going to struggle to do that. Credibly, whilst people can point to people coming illegally in a boat to the UK, ending up in a hotel, having lots of money spent on them, and then it being very difficult to remove them from this country, and that with then pressures potentially on things like social housing and everything as well. But that's where I think some of the debate has changed. The debate has moved on radically, as you touch on. Go back a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, Conservative ministers were always dealing with constant objections from the Labour Party to any move to tighten up the immigration rules. We remember all the bitter battles we had to make the changes we managed to get through around some of our laws on illegal migration, all the way through the last Parliament. And yet now, most of those things that apparently were dreadful are now becoming policy for the Labour Party, and they're looking to go further in some areas as well, partly because they're seeing the problem that there is. But the big one is the fact that on day one, they scrapped the Rwanda plan that gave them a third country option. And interestingly, of course, the US is now looking at picking it up. They're going to have to look at something like that to deal with those people who France won't take them back. They can't be returned to our country of citizenship because, for whatever reason, either it's a country that just point blank refuses to take returns, or it's a government we just can't really deal with. What do you do with someone? And that means moving them to a third country. And I say it's interesting to see the Trump administration has actually picked up on the Rwanda plan.
Yep, they are either looking at it or in the advanced stages, as far as I understand, probably using all the infrastructure that Britain paid for. It wouldn't surprise me. Kevin, thanks so much. Yep. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up soon. Have a good bank holiday Monday. Let's play a very quick clip. This is Darren Jones, the Labour MP, who was speaking to Camilla Tominey on GB News about this issue a bit earlier.
It is unacceptable, it's not legal, it is organised by criminal gangs. That's why we're doing everything we can to get those numbers reduced, but also to make it harder for people who come here illegally to stay here. If you've got a legal right to come here to work or to be a student, or because we need you to help fill a shortage occupation, then follow the proper process and you'll be welcome and integrated on that basis.
Well, there we go then, Paul Cox. It's okay because it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable, it's illegal, it's unacceptable, and we don't want it to continue. So everything's all right then. Let's just crack on, shall we?
Words, words and more words. We've heard it not just from Darren Jones, we've heard it from endless politicians on this subject. It's almost as if this is an unsolvable Rubik's Cube of a problem. It's not at all. It's very straightforward. Take away the incentive and get into the channel and do something serious to make sure we put them off from coming. Now, if I'd said that on TV 2 years ago, I'd probably got in a fair bit of trouble. But we're getting to a point now where we literally need to do something. Donald Trump, he stopped migration, illegal migration on that southern border, and he did it just like that. Now, it's a little bit trickier with the English Channel and France, but it's not that much trickier, and it only takes a certain amount.
Hang on, Paul. That's where I disagree with you.
The sea, the only thing is the sea.
Moat. But it's a damn moat around the country. It should be far easier.
Yeah, you'd think, actually, it's a good point, but for whatever reason, we've got this sort of midway point where it ends for France and it starts for the UK, and we actually got an RNLI that will go and rescue these people, and God bless them, it's kind of their work, right? That's what they do for a living. They don't look at it as immigrants, they look at it as people lost at sea, and they go and save them. I don't have any issue with that. I know people in the GBNews family and the wider public do have issues with that. I don't. However, there are things that we could do. We've got a very small navy now. We could plant that in the English Channel, and we could stop them coming. As soon as one person got harmed, or by the way, people die all the time crossing the Channel. People die all the time crossing the Channel. Was somebody to get hurt being stopped crossing, and it stopped thousands of people coming, it would solve 1 million problems.
Simon, is it easier to defend a water border or a land border?
Obviously, a water border, but the problem here is not defense, because it's the law that they claim that they have to follow. This is incentives. More than half the homeless people in Los Angeles and California are not from California. Why? Because the weather's nice and they get free stuff and they can take a dump on the street and do drugs and people pay them to do it. Why do people come to Britain? Because they can. Because they know that they will be taken in, they can claim asylum whether or not they have a good case, they'll be housed, they'll be fed, they can probably bring their families in, and even if they're told to go home, they don't have to go home. It's a pure matter of incentives. If they knew that they could not gain, like Australia's plan, they will not let someone who comes by ship gain Australian residency, period. And so the trickle dried up, and now no one tries it.
It would stop overnight. Sarah, any thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I just think we need to humanise it a little bit, because they, them, us, they're like, you know, migrants. These are families, often people who are fleeing war-torn areas. I've been to lots of the refugee camps. I've spoken to those people. They can't be returned to their country because they'd likely be killed if they were returned. That is the first point. But also, Ben, when we're talking about the problem that the UK has when it comes to illegal crossings, we continually focus on the symptom, which is people who are fleeing various situations, many horrible stories, but that are fleeing that area and then coming to the UK. That is the symptom, it's not the cause. What countless governments have failed to grapple with is the illegal smugglers who are facilitating this. And if you don't take that seriously, and President Trump has understood that you can't make these promises, stop the boats, we're going to deal with the problem. You know, anti-migration rhetoric, anti-migrant rhetoric that fails to humanise the people behind this, and not put serious money, serious force behind deterrence and dealing with those criminal gangs that are making a huge amount of money exploiting our border crossing, and also exploiting the people who they're taking money from, who have fled difficult circumstances in the first place.
Do you not think it's more humane to stop the pull factors that stop these people making the journey in the first place? They wouldn't be dying in the Channel if they weren't crossing the Channel in the first place. Stopping that is more humane than
exactly, but how do you stop that? You have to stop the criminal gangs and the people facilitating the smuggling.
I don't think you ever will stop criminal gangs. They're like drug dealers. They will never stop. It's such a lucrative business. It's like whack-a-mole. You take one out, somebody else will pop up and take their place. Whack, whack, whack. Going after gangs, I argue, is stupid. You need to just have some sort of defence. You have to enforce your border. They can have all the criminal gangs and smugglers they want. If you've got a strong border, they're not getting through.
It's also, I'm sorry to say this, Sarah, but it's weak to humanise them. It in humanising the whole situation, it creates an excuse. It reframes the problem. The problem is one great illegal migration from one place to another. They've already come from a safe country to our country. That's demonstrably true, evidenced in law. And by saying by humanising them and raising them up from criminal status, we make it easier for people just to accept them coming. When they come here and commit crimes in small numbers, we can't humanise them then. When they're raping small girls, we don't humanise them then. When they're causing us endless problems with our infrastructure, with the NHS, we can't humanise them then. We stop humanising them, we stop the problem, and we make sure it's no longer our problem. We cannot keep absorbing. The UK is not a sponge.
I agree with all of that. I think you should always humanise, but listen, it's the government, not the people who are at fault here. So it's the government that should be...
Well, aside from the rapist and the monster who murdered Rhiannon Sky White and the monster who murdered Thomas Roberts down on the south coast in Portsmouth and the guy that murdered the poor chap
What about
Terence
the father
in Manchester?
who's had to flee and leave his family behind and hasn't seen his kids for years and years? What about the young kids that have drowned trying to make those dangerous
journeys?
journeys?
Why are men fleeing war and leaving their wives and kids behind? That's not my definition of a man.
To try and bring their families over, to try and make money to survive in economically difficult circumstances, because America and Britain keep joining wars and launching wars that cause these migration issues in the first place. I mean, no, come on.
The war between Pakistan
what
and
annoys me when they say
Afghanistan
don't humanise the people. It is the government's, and Ben, you're absolutely right. The UK has a massive problem with illegal immigration. Conservatives, 14 years? They promised to stop the boats and they didn't do it. Labour making promises again, they're not stopping it. But don't target your anger and rhetoric at the people who are desperate enough and hopeless enough to get on a boat and make that dangerous crossing in the first place. Target your anger at the governments that are allowing it to happen. Where's your taxpayer dollars going? Where's your taxpayer pounds going? That's the issue.
You seem angry. I'm not particularly angry. This is a matter of policy and a matter of law. The people who are coming on these boats, by and large, are not the poorest of the poor fleeing war. They are people who can afford to smuggle themselves into Europe. They're coming for economic reasons. There might be a very small minority that would qualify for asylum. And I'm sorry, the war between, or whatever it is between Afghanistan and Pakistan is not our fault. Dysfunction in the most of the world, 6 billion people living in poverty, is not the fault of the United Kingdom or of the United States. I mean, unless you're looking through a Marxist lens where everything is our fault.
You don't think the United States has a responsibility for some of the migration issues around the world?
I don't think the United States has a responsibility for 8 million Venezuelans leaving Venezuela. No. I think the communist government of Venezuela does.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live tonight. Did the CIA poison England's greatest ever goalkeeper, Gordon Banks? That's what a podcast has just investigated. And it's pertinent, of course, because we've got the World Cup here in North America in just a few weeks. I'll be joined in a moment by one of the hosts and Gordon's grandson. Don't go anywhere, I love this story.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, I love this story. He's English footballing royalty, but the looming World Cup this summer in North America isn't the reason that Gordon Banks is in the news. No, it's for a far more shocking and mysterious reason. His grandson, Ed, has enlisted the help of investigative journalist Gabriel Gatehouse in the new podcast Foul Play to interrogate the staggering claims that the World Cup winning goalkeeper, get this, could have been poisoned by the CIA at the 1970 Mexico World Cup. It's the front page of The Observer today. Despite that, Gordon Banks pulled off one of the most iconic moments in football history when he made an incredible save, and what a save it was, to keep out Pele's header in a game against Brazil. Here he was reflecting on that a few years ago.
He says, I travel all over the world, he says, and people talk about the goals that I scored, he says, but when I come to England, all they talk about is that save that you made to me.
What a guy. Well, with me now, I'm pleased to say, is Gordon Banks' grandson and the host of the Foul Play podcast, Ed Jervis. Ed, great to see you. Thank you for joining us on The Late Show Live. This story is fascinating, so I'll let you explain, but long story short, it was the 1970 World Cup. England were favourites alongside Brazil. England ended up playing Brazil in the latter stages of the tournament, and first of all, was it Bobby Moore got arrested for stealing a bracelet in Colombia, but then, more personally, Gordon Banks, your grandfather, suddenly went down ill, the only squad member to get ill, and he had to miss the game against Brazil, right? And eventually England were knocked out the World Cup.
Yeah, well, it was actually... sorry to correct you. It was West Germany, but the meeting. Oh no, it's absolutely fine. The meeting was all about the final, and the chat was about whether England would meet Brazil in the final. They'd played in the group stages. My granddad had made that save against Pele in the group stages, and yeah, it was just sort of this huge moment where England were a better team than they were in 1970. And unbelievably, my granddad fell ill with food poisoning, and that was just the story for ages. It was just a case of sporting bad luck. My granddad always used to say, "Oh, something dodgy went on there." None of us in the family particularly believed it. And yeah, then a few years after his death, somebody tells me this crazy story that apparently the CIA might have been involved, and I thought that was absolutely insane, but slept on it, decided to investigate it.
So the big question now is, why would the CIA want to scupper England's World Cup chances? It had something to do with the regime in Brazil, right?
Yeah, so that's the theory goes anyway, is that this is at the height of the Cold War. America is allegedly worried about the spread of communism throughout Latin America. And the United States is supporting this right-wing military dictatorship in Brazil. And the Brazilian dictatorship in 1970 are obsessed with winning the World Cup. The theory is that maybe they will appease the people, hopefully prevent some kind of revolution, and that basically England are the main threat to Brazil on the pitch, and so they embark on this campaign to destabilise the England team. You've already mentioned Bobby Moore in the World Cup warm-up games in Bogotá, accused of bracelet theft, and then this was, you know, another potential way of destabilising that England team.
And it's not far-fetched to, well, I mean, I think it's been proven that the CIA has before got involved in big sporting events and tournaments. Were they not involved in various Olympics tournaments where I think maybe alongside their Russian counterparts, who are obviously working for their own host nations, they were using athletes in the athletes' villages to kind of go on certain missions and so on, and propaganda and all that kind of thing. So it's not out of the question that the CIA had been involved in different sporting endeavours before.
Absolutely, and that's what we explore in the podcast. Is we look at the CIA's history at other sporting events, most notably spies that were at the Mexico Olympic Games just 2 years before in 1968. But there's also plenty of other footballing events, sporting events where, you know, you do have to ask certain questions about whether intelligence agencies were getting involved, spying, that sort of thing, but also potentially interfering in the outcome of the sport on the pitch as well.
Wow. And your late granddad, the great Gordon Banks, he died in 2019, am I right? Did he ever say how he thought he got poisoned? Was it something to do with maybe a beer bottle or a bottle of beer he was handed?
Yeah, so he mentioned a bottle of beer in his autobiography and sort of said that he couldn't remember whether it was handed to him with a lid on or off, and, you know, his memory was a bit fuzzy. But I think just the more he thought about it over the years, the more he thought, well, it just seems so odd that I got so ill and nobody else did. And we look quite a lot into this in the podcast, the level of regulation around the England team, what they were allowed to eat, what they were allowed to drink. It was incredibly strict, you know, even as prescriptive as no ice in your drink and all that sort of stuff. All the meals were all cooked for them by their own chef that was flown in, their own food, all of that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, my granddad thought it was really suspicious that it was just him that got ill.
Whilst I've got you, Ed, I have to ask, just on a personal level, what was your granddad like as a grandfather, as a human being? You know, not a legendary goalkeeper who everybody knows and loves, but how was he as a grandparent?
Yeah, he was lovely. He was really lovely. Obviously, football mad, as we all are, the whole family. He used to take me and my cousins out to go and play football. Not on his lawn, though, because he was very, very proud of his lawn, which he mowed to Wembley standards. We had to go on the field next door. But no, he was a really kind, loving, warm man. And he was really funny as well. And that's something that I think we've gotten across in this podcast, is not just the seriousness of the investigation, but also the fun as well.
Great stuff. Ed, where can people find the podcast, the Foul Play podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's available on Thursday, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. It's also on Audible as well. We've made it with the great guys at Audible who've been fantastic. So yeah, but you can get it on Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Ed, really fascinating speaking to you. Thank you so much for staying up with us on the Late Show Live on GB News. Appreciate it. And yeah, keep up the great work. Thank you, Ed Jervis, the grandson of the late, great Gordon Banks. Thank you, mate. Really interesting story. As I said, the CIA involved before in sporting events, the Olympics and so on. I wouldn't put it past them. They get up to all sorts of shenanigans, Simon, the CIA. No comment.
Sneaky American.
I mean, This one seems pretty far-fetched to me, but hey, it might be a fascinating podcast. The things that have been laid at the feet of the CIA greatly exceed their will or capacity to do.
Also, this kind of thing's been happened before. I think there was a Spurs team years ago before they played Arsenal one night. They was it some sort of final? They ate some dodgy lasagna, and the whole first team got food poisoning and had to play a second team. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live. We'll look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers, including this on the Eye. The headline reads, "Embarrassing text to expose ministers' cosy relationships with Peter Mandelson." Back in just a sec.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's look at the front page of the iPaper tomorrow and go to Paul Cox in London, because, Paul, the headline reads, "Embarrassing text to expose ministers' cosy relationships with Mandelson." A tranche of new texts coming out which will show how ministers and MPs, quote-unquote, sucked up to the disgraced peer over the years.
Yeah, very interesting. More to come, I think. Although insiders are saying it's more likely to be embarrassing than bring down the government. But of course, Peter Mandelson was incredibly well connected. Everyone looked up to him. Peter Mandelson was the Machiavellian architect of New Labour, set about in the late 80s, bringing about the rose as the symbol under Kinnock for Labour, putting Brown and Blair together in 1992 to make what would become New Labour long before 1997 ever came about. So there are are going to be lots and lots and lots of people within the current Labour Party who would have been incredibly keen to be communicating with Peter Mandelson. So this could be embarrassing for a large number of people. But here's the facts, Ben. Nothing's changed. He was still friends with Peter. He was still friends with Epstein. He was still a dodgy character, and he still should never have been made the ambassador to the US for the UK because of just those things alone. So it's interesting. We can see that we're going to see more and more that the Labour Party and the senior members of the Labour Party have questions to answer when it comes to their judgment, Ben.
Yeah, and I think Wes Streeting, Mandelson was his mentor. He's
he was a prodigy of.
Yeah, and also, by the way, very quickly, 30 seconds, Keir Starmer, I've forgotten, he has survived this whole Mandelson affair. Any other Prime Minister, especially a Tory or a Conservative, would have been gone far, I mean, long, long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, really, the things that he has survived. And he is still there, like you say. And maybe Andy Burnham won't even get there. And even if he does, maybe Keir Starmer would win that leadership battle. Let's hope that Andy Burnham, has had nothing to do with Peter Mandelson. I'm sure if he did, it would be in the eye. That would make very, very interesting reading.
Yeah, was it Starmer who once said, we just call him Peter?
Yes.
Or Mandy. We just call him Mandy. Right, Paul, thank you very much. Hang tight. We've got a few more hours left, so keep yourself there. More coming up on The Late Show live in the next hour, including this.
What do you say to your victims, Hugh Edwards?
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Blue skies, sunshine, record-breaking temperatures all in the forecast through Bank Holiday Monday. And apart from the very far northwest of Scotland where we'll see thicker cloud and some patchy rain at times through the course of today, it's actually going to be sunny for the vast majority of the UK, and the sunshine is going to be very strong, so we'll see high levels of UV, particularly across England and Wales. And the sunshine is very strong, as I say, so do remember to protect your skin from those harmful UV rays. It will turn very hot by this afternoon, temperatures into the low, possibly mid-30s for some of us, particularly in the southeast, so probably breaking the all-time May maximum temperature record of 32.8, with the potential for 34 to even 35 degrees in the southeast of England. So another very warm end to the day, plenty of sunshine, barely a cloud in the sky through the course of this evening if you are out enjoying your Bank Holiday Monday evening. Running into a little bit more in the way of cloud, perhaps across Northern Ireland, but still some sunny spells to be enjoyed here. Likewise across central and southern Scotland as well. But northern Scotland still a bit cloudier, still bits and pieces of light rain and drizzle for the Highlands and perhaps Orkney and Shetland as well. But even here the rain will tend to fade away as we go through the course of the coming night. So turning mostly dry, clearer skies developing across the very far northwest as well. So it will turn into a slightly cooler night for the glens of Scotland. Otherwise, though, particularly in England and Wales, another very warm and sticky night to come. Temperatures in the towns and cities perhaps not falling below 20 degrees Celsius, which we term a tropical night and pretty unusual, especially in May. But it means it's going to be a warm start to the day on Tuesday. Blue skies and sunshine for most of England and Wales. Sunny spells further north and a much brighter, dry day to come for northwest Scotland as well. A drop in temperature of some 10 degrees, though, for some North Sea coastal regions, so much cooler here. The peak of the heat across the Midlands and the south, where we'll once again see temperatures in the low to mid-30s, so once again feeling exceptionally hot for May.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
What do you say to your victims, Hugh Edwards?
Well. Channel 4 are reportedly in talks to do a documentary with paedophile Hugh Edwards, the former BBC News anchor who was sentenced for possessing indecent images of children. Right off the back, by the way, of the Married at First Sight rape scandal. Should the whole station now just be shut down at this point? And elsewhere tonight, former UK Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis, friend of GB News, has said that Palantir should sue the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, after he vetoed a £50 million deal between the Met Police and the US tech giant.
To President Putin, I say, we see you.
Another day, another sign of Russian aggression as it's revealed Russia jammed signals of an RAF jet carrying that man there, the Defence Secretary John Healey. An extraordinary story just breaking tonight. I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. Remember, no breaks this hour. Joining me in Washington this evening is foreign correspondent Sarah Firth and the Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. And in London, Paul Cox. Will called you Chief Gammon earlier today, I think. So I'm going to call you Chief Gammon Paul Cox. There we go. We'll stick in with that. OK, let's move on to our main news this evening. Would you trust this man with your children?
Only use those sources that you trust.
No, I didn't think so, because he's a grubby little paedophile who was caught with more than 40 indecent images of children, including 2 videos showing a child as young as 7 potentially being abused. That man, of course, is the BBC's latest child abuser, Hugh Edwards, an arrogant and repulsive individual who still pockets £300,000 a year of his BBC pension, despite being convicted in 2024. The very fact he walked free from court on a suspended sentence, well, that alone was a horrible stain on the British justice system. But I've been thinking, a man with a shred of dignity about him after that would have kept his head down and maybe sent himself off to a desert island somewhere to think about the disgusting life decisions he had made. But not Hugh Edwards. No, not Hugh Edwards. The 64-year-old is now understood to be having talks with Channel 4 about making a television programme in which he'll, quote, make his case about the child abuse scandal which brought him down. A truly astonishing revelation tonight, if there ever was one. Now, why would Channel 4 ever entertain the idea of platforming a child abuser? I have no idea. But then again, this is the same degenerate outfit that brings us shows like Naked Attraction and, more recently, the sex scandal hit Married at First Sight. Edwards' big comeback plans come after a Channel 5 drama titled Power, the downfall of Hugh Edwards, was broadcast in March when the former BBC man said the programme was a, quote, one-sided account. After its release, Edwards said in a statement, other opportunities would arise later this year for me to state my case and to challenge the misleading or fabricated claims made in recent coverage. Serious questions, he said, still remain to be answered, and not just by me. It will now take some time for me to produce my own account, and until then, I do not intend to comment any further. Just to remind you, viewers and listeners, he was convicted in the court of law. So, is that going to be with Channel 4, this new collaboration? Because the Sunday Times certainly thinks so. The paper today reports that while details of a possible programme are secret, a source told the newspaper that Edwards would want to discuss some of the issues raised in psychiatric assessments from court before his sentencing, including his medical conditions. It may also address his troubled relationship with his father and, well, his name was Hugh Edwards. He was a Welsh academic who died in 2010, which was cited as a source of long-term anguish connected with his offending. How insulting. Let me be frank here. I don't care what Hugh Edwards' childhood was like. I don't care about his relationship with his father, or if he ever had one. I don't care about his woe is me excuse that somehow sparked an attraction to children. And why he thinks anyone else will care is beyond me. And what I do care about are the poor little souls pictured in those videos and pictures that were found on Edwards' devices. I care about their purity and their innocence being stamped out by vile, demonic paedophiles, while losers like Edwards sat at home leering over them. I care about the poor families and carers of those children who forever have to live with the nightmare that they weren't around to save them from the worst crime humanity has to offer. And I care that a low-grade, sorry excuse for a man like Hugh Edwards is still free to walk the streets of Britain instead of being behind bars where he belongs. So, should it go ahead, the programme is expected to be broadcast after mid-September when Edwards' 2-year suspended sentence concludes. But I've got a better idea for you, Mr. Edwards. Take your BBC pension, salvage whatever shred of morality you can muster from the depths of your sorry little life, and disappear from public life forever. We have approached Channel 4 for comment, but it's understood that Edwards has spoken to several other media organisations too. Right, my panel are here with me now, Sarah Firth and Simon Hankinson. Sarah, this guy is arrogant beyond belief. He's a repulsive, grubby little paedophile. And why he thinks he has the delusion that anybody would care about his case, quote-unquote, in the paedophile scandal that brought him down, I do not know.
Yeah, I mean, if ever there was an argument for bringing back the death penalty, it is people. I mean, he admitted to possessing images that featured child abuse, and it was category A, so very, very young children. Appalling, abhorrent. The debate about whether Channel 4 should interview, you know, that's an old journalist ethical question that we grapple with a lot. And I've had my fair share of interviewees and programs where I've had to weigh up whether it's in the public interest or whether it's serving the person on the other end of the camera, like the murderer, the terrorist, the foreign fighter, whether it's just giving them a platform to give their side of the story, in which case, you know, there isn't a public interest argument. What I do think, though, with this issue, with what's happened with Hugh Edwards, if it's handled right in the context of how this program's made, who makes it, whose voices are platformed, the reason why, and I've had many people say to me, why did you interview that person? Why did you give them a voice when they've killed so many people? The reason is because, you know, it comes back to Hannah Arendt's The Banality of Evil, right? We, in the media, can portray these men as monsters. He was one of the leading media figures in the UK for so many years. So many people respected and knew Hugh Edwards. How was this man? He's not a monster. He's a man who was represented by an industry, a network, very well respected. How was he able to carry this out for as long as he did? And to get to that answer, we do need journalists' investigations into the systems around how people like Hugh Edwards are able to operate and do this.
Interesting point, although I would say it's being reported by the Sunday Times, Simon, that it's going to be a woe is me case about, oh, my dad was bad and I had a bad relationship with my dad. Yeah, you and everyone else, pal. Doesn't mean we grow up to be child abusers and download indecent images of kids. That's just trauma. You either look, I'm not a psychologist, but when you go through tough times, particularly as a child, either you use that as rocket fuel and motivation to say, yeah, I'm going to do better than that. I want to get away from that as far as I can. Or if you're of the inclination that, you're not very aware, really, you're not very conscious about how things work, you'll just repeat the behaviour. I don't want to hear Hugh Edwards' sorry, lame excuses about why he went on to download videos of a 6 to 7-year-old child being abused. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know the how he got away with it angle. I think that'd be interesting investigative journalism, but him explaining himself, not so much. And I was listening to a writer, Dr. Deborah So. She wrote a book called Sextinction, and she's a professional sex researcher, and she said that the evidence shows now that it isn't nature, it isn't nurture, it's nature. That most people who are pedophiles are born, they're wired that way. It's not what happened to them, child abuse. That's often an excuse that they will use, or that they will give to try to elicit some sympathy. So this is an interesting way to look at it, and if that is true, then like you said, everybody has their troubles growing up. There are lots of people who've had horrible childhoods who turn into fully functional adults, and whatever you desire, if it is relations with children, don't do it, is just the absolute rule number one.
Yeah.
And I personally don't care what the excuse is.
They should be castrated, I think. I think when you talk about deterrence, that is the most appalling crime imaginable, and that is justifiably should bring back the most extreme form of punishment.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very basic. I mean, they give castration drugs to trans kids more often than not, so why not give them to paedophiles like Hugh Edwards? It's disgusting little pig. Paul Cox, what's your take on this?
Look, I mean, how can you say much more than the other peeps there? I mean, it's abhorrent, isn't it? It's one of those crimes that absolutely no one should be given any leniency towards whatsoever. What I find astonishing is this won't be the last paedophile to work for the BBC. Right now, there will be a paedophile working in the BBC. It's a farm for paedophiles. It's just continuous. And one of the reasons that Hugh Edwards believes that he has a right to tell his story is because he worked amongst that organisation. And that organisation made people feel that this was not such a bad crime, because it always happened. Each generation had a leading presenter or newsreader that was involved in this disgusting stuff. I think we need to get to the bottom of why people at that level, at such a big establishment, believe it's perfectly okay to some degree, and it's only a problem when you get caught. And every time the BBC do get caught, they issue the same apology. Don't apologise to us anymore, BBC. Stop the paedophiles in your organisation. It's really simple. There'll be one there now, right now, Ben. I guarantee it. There's one right now that we might not even hear about until the 2030s.
Oh, goodness me, Paul. Well, look, I hope not, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt by saying, I don't know, hopefully there are no more paedophiles at the BBC, but by that metric you can probably say there's paedophiles everywhere, and I'm sure there are. I mean, the whole thing just disgusts me. Hugh Edwards, it's the arrogance that he thinks that anybody wants to hear what he has to say about his disgusting crimes. As I said, just take your 300k a year pension, which is no doubt being paid for by licence fee payers. Take your 300 grand a year. You're very privileged, you're very lucky on that front. Go away and think about what you've done and maybe what you would have done differently. Nobody else wants to hear from you.
No. I mean, look, I find this stuff harrowing. I don't know anyone who doesn't, to be honest. I'm not unique in that. I'm certainly not the victim of any of these crimes, and the whole idea of this is just absolutely and utterly disgusting, which is why we are so quickly repulsed. 99% of the world's population are so quickly repulsed by this. Children need our protection, and when there are people like this that we're told we can trust, it just makes it a million times worse, particularly when it's at the epicentre of essentially British culture, which the BBC was. And you know what? I make no apology. I'm sure that they don't actually set out to farm these people, but, you know, there is a problem. There is a huge problem there that's gone on for 50+ years. And at the top of the Labour Party, and I'm sure within the Conservative Party, our establishments are absolutely riddled with this stuff. We have to question it. Why is this the case? Hugh Edwards should not be allowed to broadcast anything ever again. You wouldn't do that. You know, you wouldn't just you wouldn't call up Rose West and say, you know, do you want to do a podcast with me? This is the equivalent. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I will say, in the interest of balance, the BBC, I'm sure, would say they're not a farm for paedophiles. Yes, they've got a track record of harbouring certain degenerates over recent years, but I guess there is no proof that they are a farm for paedophiles, and they deny that if they gave us a comment on the matter. Right, gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts on that story. Hugh Edwards, would you be interested to see a documentary where he makes his case? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got this all wrong and you guys would be interested. I don't know. You tell me. Right, let's move on. Former UK Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis has said that Palantir, the big US tech giant, should sue the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, after he vetoed a £50 million deal between the Met Police and the US company. The Labour Mayor kiboshed the deal over concerns surrounding the procurement process, accusing the Met of not consulting any other suppliers. However, and this is crucial, it later emerged that the Mayor's office alluded to the ethics of companies it procures from. And a spokesperson said that Londoners would expect their money to be spent on companies that share the values of the city. Now, Palantir, just for context, has long been controversial with the left because of its technology being used by the likes of the IDF, as well as on immigration raids in the United States. So the question is Mayor Khan's intervention justified or simply an act of political prejudice? Well, let's get the thoughts now of former Liberal Democrat councillor and NHS campaigner Matthew Holbert. Matthew, hello, good to see you. Hope you're enjoying your bank holiday. Should Sadiq Khan be nuking tech deals between the Met and Palantir if it's for political reasons?
It's great to be with you, Ben, as we start this Bank Holiday Monday. Thank you. I have concerns about Palantir and some of their record. You raised it there. There's concerns about their potentially having supplied some of the difficult situation that has gone on in Gaza, and also concerns around data privacy. Certainly we have concerns as health campaigners about that. And I think Sadiq Khan, whatever you may think about the ethics issue, and I guess we can debate that and we will do here, I think he's absolutely right to point to concerns about the Met Police only having gone to Palantir, apparently prepared to give them this contract without looking for anyone else at all to potentially having supplied that. I hope we all can say that that is clearly not right.
Okay, but I actually I agree with you on that front. In the interest of taxpayer money being spent properly and parties and politicians doing dodgy deals with contractors and so on, yes, I agree with that. But the statement from the Mayor's office talking about the ethics of a company, it seems to me, translating that, is that they were talking more about how they judge Palantir's business behaviour as opposed to just the procurement process.
Well, if Met had done a proper job and gone out to various different companies to potentially bid against each other, then maybe some of these ethics matters could have been debated and considered. The different companies could have been compared and contrasted. That clearly wasn't the case because apparently the Met clearly wanted only Palantir to do it. And there are, I mean, I know you say, oh, it's only the left who have concerns. I think it's beyond the left, actually, that have concerns about Palantir. And, you know, we tend not to hear from Palantir themselves in defence of their own operation. I wish we heard more on them explaining some of these things, but they appear to not want to. So, I mean, I think it's entirely right, as you know, especially for those of us who have major concerns about Palantir's involvement in the National Health Service and about data privacy and patient records, etc., to express those concerns. And I have similar concerns in regards to the police. I mean, the fact is this is an organisation that has provided data, etc., to ICE in America, and yet ICE has its supporters. I don't deny that for a second, but it also very much has those of us who are very much concerned in terms of civil liberties and infringements on people's rights. So these things should be questioned, surely.
OK. Matthew, thank you very much. Enjoy your bank holiday, whatever you get up to. Appreciate you being with us this morning on The Late Show Live. Simon Hankinson, Sir Michael Ellis, who is the former Conservative Attorney General, good friend of GB News, he described Sadiq Khan's intervention by nuking this deal as an extraordinary intervention which may be susceptible to judicial review. He told The Times that according to Khan's own office, his decision appears to be based, at least in part, on Khan's political sensibilities, namely how he views the values and ethics of this American company. Why are Palantir so controversial as well?
Well, it's two different questions. One is the bidding question. Yeah, they should have an open, competitive bidding process and no sweetheart deals. So if that's his objection, it makes sense. And the second is the morality. I think they don't like the fact that Palantir sells to the Israeli Defense Forces, they sell to the American government and law enforcement. But someone's going to create this equipment and this technology and this software. This is just the way things are going. So the question is the company going to be able to do it safely, reputably? Is it value for money? And ultimately, is it going to make the people of London safer? I would imagine it probably would. Things like facial recognition, they have a definite downside. People worry about their data, but they also make it harder for people to shoplift and mug and commit crimes.
Yes, and Sarah, Palantir already have massive, huge contracts in the UK with the likes of the NHS, where I think they've been found to help reduce waiting lists, the MOD as well, other police forces outside the Met, where I think they've been proven to bring down crime and help link intelligence data together.
Yeah, I mean, look, Sadiq Khan's point is that when you're investing this type of money, taxpayer money, that you need to be thinking about where that money's going and be utilising companies that share the values of the City of London, right? And I do think it's worth pointing out. So last year, we're talking about, oh, it's because they work with the Israeli military. I mean, what has happened in Gaza at the hands of the Israeli military, they've been accused of carrying out a genocide. So last year, when the Israeli military that Palantir work with and train, last year when the company's chief executive of Palantir, Alex Karp, was challenged that Palantir kills Palestinians in Gaza, he said, mostly terrorists. That's true. So, I mean, like, the guy is openly admitting and being very blasé about the role that Palantir has played
what's wrong with killing terrorists?
In what we've seen play out in Gaza, which by any measure has been abhorrent. I mean, you've got international investigations now. Netanyahu is wanted by the ICC. You've had so many women, children killed, the land destroyed.
OK, so do you boycott all Israeli products? Because I think your water meter here in DC is made by an Israeli firm.
I accept that. What I would say is that, look, you can't go back and... I also think you don't, when it comes to what you're saying about the boycott movement, there is a very good argument for why that's not necessarily effective and can actually punish Palantir.
This is what it is. They're boycotting Palantir because
there are plenty of Israelis, Ben. There are plenty of Israelis who fully disagree with what their leadership has done in Gaza to Palestinians, right? So boycotting anything Israeli is ridiculous and anti-Semitic.
But that's what Khan's being accused of.
No, he's not. He's being accused. He's being accused of vetting which organisation gets a massive amount of money to provide services. Palantir's not the only one who can provide those services. Right, why are we going to give it?
Sarah, hang on
why are we going to give it to a company whose own chief executive has openly been very blasé about killing Palestinians?
Okay, so you support a boycott of Israeli
No, I support Sadiq Khan taking action to not.
Either you support a boycott or you don't.
Myself, I support him vetting which company and their values and their ethics and their involvement
which is a boycott
of Palantir, but I'm not saying boycott Israeli goods. I'm saying Palantir because of its But yeah,
what about Microsoft? I mean, if the Israeli Defense Forces, or let's say the Saudi Defense Forces, we use Microsoft.
Has Microsoft come out and said, yeah, we're involved in killing Palestinians?
No, and I'm sure Carr probably was taken out of context if he was saying that his equipment was used in operations that targeted and killed terrorists.
Palantir kills Palestinians in Gaza, and he said mostly terrorists. That's true. How on earth does he know that? How does he know that?
What is wrong with saying, yeah, mostly terrorists?
Because first of all, there is a load of problems wrong with that in terms of who we're trusting, in terms of categorising as terrorists. How on earth would the chief of Palantir know who was being killed and when? We have the thing that bugs me about this conversation so much, and bugs is the wrong word, I have a deep disgust for anyone who tries to equivocate about the abhorrence of women and children and architecture and land that has been destroyed in Gaza. Like, we have all seen with our own eyes what the Israeli military has done, and it's abhorrent. If Palantir are openly saying, yes, we were involved in killing Palestinians, as a Londoner myself, no, I don't want, if I was living in London right now, I don't want my tax dollars going to that company that have openly admitted that they're involved in the killing of Palestinians.
You haven't seen it with your own eyes unless you've been in Gaza in the last year. You've seen it through the media, right? You've been fed through the BBC, through Al Jazeera, whatever. I don't know what you watch, CNN. You've been given one version of events, and there.
Are you denying? Are you denying that the Israeli military has killed women and children in Gaza?
I am not denying that women and children have been killed in Gaza. I am denying that there's a genocide. If you look at the definition of a genocide,
but we're not arguing about that, Simon. We're not arguing about that, Simon. What is the justification for killing women and children in Gaza? Give me a good one.
It happens in war.
We're talking about Palantir in London and police. We're not talking about Gaza.
There are rules for war. Again, we come back to it. Right. There are rules for war. Proportionality matters. No one can argue. I mean, to lower the temperature, look. Listen, come on, be reasonable. No one can argue what we have seen take place in Gaza.
We're talking about Gaza too much. We're getting stuck in the weeds of Gaza.
Because this is the reason that Sadiq Khan has axed Palantir.
Palantir is supplying technology to agencies that then
Well, if you're going to supply a government that's been accused of war crimes, then our Mayor of London has every right to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to give you a £50 million contract, or however much it is. He's got every right to do that.
I will just say, well, that is approving boycotts. You say you don't approve boycotts, but that is a boycott. Well, that is an Israeli-linked boycott.
No, it's a decision that you make based on the companies available for the work.
No,
Ben, because a boycott would be.
You're saying any firm that works with the IDF and killing people in Gaza, you're not going to work.
I'm not,
so that's a boycott.
I don't think it's a boycott. I think a boycott would be calling for anything in London that had any relation to the Israeli government or ties to the Israeli government or put money in the Israeli military's hands should be stopped. And as I said, the problem with the boycott movement, which I fully agree with, the problem with BDS and the boycott movement is that it can scoop up and target Israelis who are, as I said, against what their government are doing in Gaza. But Sadiq Khan, this isn't a boycott. He has every right as the Mayor of London to look at...
To boycott.
Yeah, okay. If you want to use the term boycott...
I mean, it is, but a boycott doesn't have to be plural. It doesn't have to be...
I think it's right and proper that a company that makes those kinds of comments about killing Palestinians in such a blasé way is vetted.
Well, he referred to terrorists.
And you should probably listen to the whole interview. Karp is a smart guy. I've heard him on podcast after podcast. He's worth listening to at length and not just a soundbite.
Not smart enough to avoid getting that soundbite reported in the media. He said it.
None of us is. You could pluck something out of the 3 hours we're going to do tonight and make any one of us look like a monster. It's easy to do.
I
think if you're talking about a boycott, so Sadiq Khan gets to say, I'm going to have a Russian company provide this surveillance technology, or an Iranian company.
But he wouldn't use a Russian company or an Iranian company because there would be serious ethical concerns with doing that. Not to mention national security concerns.
So who's left?
So there's serious concerns. Many companies who don't say in an interview, yeah, we kill Palestinians, they're terrorists.
Okay, let's get the thoughts of Paul Cox in London. Paul, thank you for your patience. Take it away.
So much to say on this, and I'm uniquely positioned to as well. I've worked in this sector, and I've also worked under Sadiq Khan for Transport for London, and I know the difference between single source and multi-source procurement, and I do know that it becomes incredibly political. I absolutely know that, but Palantir are unique. Palantir's AI and system software in defence and security is unique to Palantir. There are other companies in the world that do similar things, but the reason Palantir are so ubiquitous is because theirs is top-notch. If you are going to go for Palantir, in order because you just want to exercise the hobby horse of Israel, but you've also got to look at the fact that Palantir work with Ukraine and they kill Russians in the same way. So is that good and bad? Also, the TfL and many companies across, from the government use companies like Serco, who I worked for 12 years. Serco work with Israel. Serco work with all sorts of people. They help house illegal immigrants. There are about 5 or 6 companies that I could say now without getting sued because they do all the things. All the things are for all the people. Palantir aren't... They're not pro-Israel, anti-Gaza. Palantir are pro-capitalist. And the reason that their CEO said, yes, we kill terrorists, is because that is part of their unique selling point. Their software can identify terrorists, whether that be Gazan terrorists, Israeli terrorists, Russian terrorists, or terrorists in the UK, and they can help those governments. They're not picking a side. Palantir are a capitalist organisation. It's no use making this an Israel thing, because if you do, then your argument falls down immediately, because it means that you're anti-Ukraine and pro-Russia. So it's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. Palantir are very good at what they do, and there's a reason that the US and UK militaries use them. It just so happens they do some things the left agree with and some things the right agree with. It's just business, and there are G4S,
like providing technology to a military that is headed up by a man now wanted by the International
Do you support Ukraine
for war crimes?
Do you support Ukraine?
Absolutely, that is a different
Then the same technology is being used.
No, come on. No, come on.
I'm not going to come on anything.
Do you agree?
Sarah, you're riding a hobby horse about Israel. This is just you going, oh, Israel. I could now, Sarah, I could at this point go, that's entirely anti-Semitic.
By the Israeli military in a wholly unproportionate
no, Sarah,
way.
No, I don't care what your dinner party mates have told you. The answer's no. You are totally wrong on this. They are just using a top-end software that only Palantir can supply. It just so happens that Israel aren't stupid, so they use Palantir the same way the Ukrainians do, the same way US does, the same way Ukraine does. They're just making a choice.
I am genuinely curious then. What are the women and children who've been killed in Gaza by the Israeli military? Are they collateral damage? Are they terrorists? According to you, what are they?
Well, they are collateral damage.
No, Sarah.
Right,
I'm sorry that upsets you, but in war, civilians die, sadly, and nobody wants them to die.
I haven't heard you talking about Russians. I haven't heard you saying, oh my God, the Russians that have died. It's because you don't support the Russians. You happen to, because you exist within an eco-bubble of anti-Israel hate.
No. The Russians invaded a sovereign nation when they invaded Ukraine. That is a completely different argument.
Do you remember the 7th of October 2023?
I've got nothing against Russians, and I would not argue if another country's military bombarded, razed to the ground parts of Russia, killing women and children, completely disproportionate, ignoring all rules of war. I would take issue with that too. I take issue when the Israeli military do it to Palestinians. I take issue with it, any country doing it to any other country's people.
Sarah, with respect, you've got a mic on, so you don't need to shout.
Every time the justifications for it, we've seen the numbers that have been killed. There is just no excuse for it.
Nobody's justifying it.
But everyone is justifying it. We've just let it happen. Netanyahu's still on the phone with Trump trying to work out a deal with Iran. The US, your government, and currently bombing Iran with the Israeli government, whilst Benjamin Netanyahu is wanted by the ICC. He came here round the corner to the White House.
Okay, Sarah, can I ask you a question? Palantir has massive contracts with the NHS, where they brought down waiting lists.
There has to be a limit, guys.
With the MOD, they've got contracts with various police forces. Would you call for all those organisations, the NHS, the MOD, other police forces, to cut ties now with Palantir?
I think if it would depend on the scale and the cost. But yeah, I do think there's a genuinely strong ethical argument for not working with Palantir after what they've opened. publicly said about the killing of Palestinians.
Any thoughts on this before we move?
I'm 100% with Paul on this. They are a company that provides a service. It's a very good service. It is not designed to target civilians. It is used by agencies of various countries and militaries by various countries and by civilian, as you were saying, hospitals, all kinds of other organizations for a particular purpose. And if anybody misuses their product, that's the fault of the people who misuse it, not the fault of the company that
So they have no responsibility for holding accountable who they're giving their technology to. If it's being misused and proven to have been misused, who's accountable for that?
It's a free market, Sarah.
You know, that's a whole
it's a free
different
market
moral argument.
It's a free market. Just because you don't like one particular war, it does. What if they helped us?
Please,
what if we were at war?
Home weigh in. Come on. I mean, no, I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone agrees. Yeah, I want to read some comments.
Okay, I will say the comments have been flooding in. A lot have said, "Can you stop shouting?" Because you've got.
I've got a loud voice.
Microphone on.
Sorry.
Let me find you some comments, and you can respond to them because there are loads. Okay. GP said they are Hamas's responsibility. Do you remember October the 7th? Israel is a sovereign nation like Ukraine. What else have we got? Go to Gaza, they say, Sarah. Go to Gaza.
If Israel would let foreign correspondents into Gaza, I'd be there in a heartbeat reporting on what was happening on the ground. Believe me, Israel will not allow international media on the ground. That is a fantastic point.
Colin Lee, who's a member, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but he said the lowest number of civilian deaths in any modern conflict.
Well, that's absolutely incorrect. Can you find me some support for the point about Palantir being accountable?
The ratio of civilians killed in close urban combat in Gaza is lower than in the Iraq War, the Afghan War, World War II. Just go down the list. It's not. No one is defending the killing of innocent people in war. No one is defending that. I'm just saying that statistically, I believe that comment is correct.
Anita has said, Sarah, the population of Gaza has risen by 2 million since October the 7th, 2023. How is that a genocide?
I mean, again, that's statistics that like, guys. Are we honestly still all this time later?
Well, hang on, you've sat here for 20 minutes calling it a genocide. A genocide has a very distinct definition.
I've said they have been accused. They have been accused of genocide, and there are rules of war, and there are reasons for rules of war. So that what we've seen play out doesn't go without accountability and investigation. That's what I'm saying. Like, the problem with this is that it's like debating around it whilst you've seen what has happened. Like, I just don't think there is any justification for what the Israeli military have gone and done over the past couple of years. We all condemn and know what happened on October 7th was abhorrent, disgusting, despicable, and absolutely needed a response, and a military one at that.
What should the response have been?
Again, I'm not the head of Israel's military. I'm saying what we've seen, what we have seen, and what we are still seeing today, which is aid being denied to the people on the ground despite the agreement that's in place. What I am saying calmly is that it should be investigated. That is right. And to come back to our original story at the point of all of this, as Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan has every right to look at the ethics and values of a company that's about to be awarded millions of pounds of British taxpayers' money and decide that the killing of women and children in Gaza and a country that is accused of genocide and who is wanted by the International Criminal Court maybe isn't a company you want to do business with.
Okay, Sarah, I take all your points on board, and I'll go back to one of the points I first made to you at the start of this conversation, which was I think your water meter here in DC is made by an Israeli firm.
Fantastic, I love Israelis.
But you could argue if that water meter was linked to the IDF.
Prove it
somehow,
to me, Ben, and then
I'm saying if it was, would you get your water meter removed? Because there are lots of. By the way, I'm saying this because I used to work for the water board in the UK, and all our water meters, for the most part, are made by an Israeli firm. And even 20 years ago, people were trying to boycott them. So I'm saying if you found out that your water meter was made by a firm which has also worked with, say, the IDF, maybe they did some admin for them or something like that. They worked with the IDF. Would you get rid of your water meter?
If the water meter company were providing technology to the IDF that was killing Palestinians in Gaza,
you could also
yes,
say that about Boeing
I absolutely
as well.
would.
You'd have to stop flying on Boeing jets as well, by the way, because Boeing I think they make defence systems as well, which I'm probably sure have been used in Gaza. You stop flying on Boeing jets?
Ben, I completely agree that there is an issue when it comes to...
That's the same thesis. Boeing, I'm sure. I think they make defence, don't they? They make.
They do.
Boeing,
yes.
They make jumbo jets as well. So are you going to boycott all Boeing jets because they work with the Israeli?
You're asking me. So are you asking? Do I think that the boycott movement is a way that works in terms of holding accountable military?
Not whether it works or not, I don't know. But I'm saying if you feel so strongly about it, you're going to start boycotting Boeing jets. When you next book a flight back home to the UK, you're going to make sure you're not flying the Boeing.
It makes it personal, and I understand what you're doing, and I understand what you're saying, and I think it is a question that we all ask ourselves, right? Like, how did we get here? How did we get into an age where we're just scrolling and seeing militaries around the world? Like, there are rules of war and international guidelines around how these things are prosecuted for a reason. So Netanyahu is wanted by the ICC now because of evidence that has been gathered by very legitimate teams, and then you've got Netanyahu coming to the White House. Like, no, I'm sorry,
Sarah,
no
they're probably using.
I just think.
Sarah, they're probably using Palantir to gather the evidence. You're aware of that, right? The very company that you want to cancel, and you want to boycott them because they're doing one thing you don't like. They're also doing a whole bunch of things you do support.
No, Paul, I am not calling to boycott Palantir. I am saying Sadiq Khan is very justified, more than justified, in deciding on the basis of Palantir's chief executive, the CEO, his own comments about the killing of Palestinians. He's very justified in saying
what makes him justified?
That's not a company that aligns with our British values.
What makes Sadiq Khan? What makes him justified to make that decision? Because you're making it sound as if it's Sadiq Khan. No, if he's the mayor of London, then it doesn't matter. What you mean is Sadiq Khan, as a Muslim Pakistani who is genetically disposed to dislike.
What does that have to do with anything, Paul?
It has everything to do with it. It has everything to do with it. Everything. It's undeniable.
Okay, GBNews.com/ you'll say.
Well, I'm denying it.
Lots of comments on this. Yeah.
I'm sorry for shouting, guys at home.
No,
I know I've got a very loud voice.
It's a very emotional and divisive issue. I get it. I fully understand as well. Somebody said that the population of Gaza had decreased since 2023. I can't verify that. Other sources say it's gone down. So I don't know. We'll have to verify that. So don't take that as gospel. Right, GBNews.com/ you'll say, should Sadiq Khan have vetoed the deal with Palantir and the Met Police? As I said, Palantir has contracts with the NHS, many other police forces, the MOD as well. A spokesman for the mayor has said that given the tight budgetary constraints the police and all public services are operating under, it's even more important that robust processes are followed when awarding contracts as large as £25 million a year. The public would expect full and proper scrutiny of whether contracts like this provide value for money. In this case, the Met only engaged with one potential supplier, Palantir. It also did not present their procurement strategy to the Deputy Mayor for approval as required. The process followed by the Metropolitan Police Service for the award of the contracts has not adequately ensured or demonstrated value for money. Right, quick look at the papers, starting with The Telegraph. The headline reads, Iran to give up uranium for peace. That's according to the United States. Although I will say, as we've seen with this Iran psychodrama, Iran has come out and said, we're not giving up the uranium. So it's just very, very tiring. The Independent. Hopes rise for new peace deal to end the US-Iran war. The Daily Star, the loneliest house. What's this one about? The loneliest house. Exclusive campaign to rescue empty homes. Never lived in Adams family semi. The Guardian, US close to a peace deal with Iran as Trump faces mutiny from his party. The Mirror, Russian spies. For real, Nige? This is off the back of Farage's comments that the £5 million, well, revelations of the £5 million came out because Russians hacked one of his devices. The Times, money for parents to spur young into work. This is a really interesting story, actually, which maybe we can talk about in a minute. It's basically trying to encourage families, parents on benefits, not to discourage their kids from getting apprenticeships, because if they did get apprenticeships, it would then stifle their benefits intake. So the government is now looking at whether to try and basically pay off parents on benefits, give them some more money to tell them not to cancel their kids' apprenticeships. The Daily Mail, soft justice makes police caretakers for criminals. This is mostly off the back of a story about a thug who left battered officer for dead is freed after less than 3 months. Hugh Edwards walked free from court despite being a grubby little sex offender. The Express, criminals are taking over our high streets, a similar sort of story. And the iPaper, as we've discussed with Paul, embarrassing text to expose ministers' cosy relationships with Peter Mandelson. Right, let's have a little breather and get a taste of your weather. I hear it's going to be balmy again in Great Britain. Back in a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Blue skies, sunshine, record-breaking temperatures all in the forecast through Bank Holiday Monday. And apart from the very far northwest of Scotland where we'll see thicker cloud and some patchy rain at times through the course of today, it's actually going to be sunny for the vast majority of the UK, and the sunshine is going to be very strong, so we'll see high levels of UV, particularly across England and Wales. And the sunshine is very strong, as I say, so do remember to protect your skin from those harmful UV rays. It will turn very hot by this afternoon, temperatures into the low, possibly mid-30s for some of us, particularly in the southeast, so probably breaking the all-time May maximum temperature record of 32.8, with the potential for 34 to even 35 degrees in the southeast of England. So another very warm end to the day, plenty of sunshine, barely a cloud in the sky through the course of this evening if you are out enjoying your Bank Holiday Monday evening. Running into a little bit more in the way of cloud, perhaps across Northern Ireland, but still some sunny spells to be enjoyed here. Likewise across central and southern Scotland as well. But northern Scotland still a bit cloudier, still bits and pieces of light rain and drizzle for the Highlands and perhaps Orkney and Shetland as well. But even here the rain will tend to fade away as we go through the course of the coming night. So turning mostly dry, clearer skies developing across the very far northwest as well. So it will turn into a slightly cooler night for the glens of Scotland. Otherwise though, particularly in England and Wales, another very warm and sticky night to come. Temperatures in the towns and cities perhaps not falling below 20 degrees Celsius, which we term a tropical night and pretty unusual, especially in May. But it means it's going to be a warm start to the day on Tuesday. Blue skies and sunshine for most of England and Wales. Sunny spells further north and a much brighter, dry day to come for northwest Scotland as well. A drop in temperature of some 10 degrees though for some North Sea coastal regions, so much cooler here. The peak of the heat across the Midlands and the south, where we'll once again see temperatures in the low to mid-30s, so once again feeling exceptionally hot for May.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Back to the Late Show Live. Right, an RAF jet, which the Defence Secretary John Healey was travelling in, had its signals jammed as it flew near the Russian border. I think it was this week. John Healey had been visiting British soldiers in Estonia and was travelling back to the UK when the electronic attack happened, as according to the Times. Apparently, I was reading earlier, it sort of wiped out the dashboard of the jet he was travelling in, all the communications and the navigation systems. The pilots had to use handheld maps for the first time in a long time, and he was safely back in the UK afterwards. It's thought Russia was behind the incident on Thursday. Smartphones on board belonging to the crew and John Healey and laptops, they were unable to connect to the internet, and as I said, the pilots had to use different navigation systems as the plane's GPS was disabled for the entire 3-hour flight, and apparently it happened at the very start of the flight as well. It's not known if Mr. Healey was deliberately targeted, but the flight path was visible on aircraft tracking websites, according to the newspaper. Kate Jones is with me now in the studio, geopolitical expert, friend of the show. Hello Kate, welcome back. This is an extraordinary story, or maybe not so. Does it happen a lot?
Happens all the time. So this whole region is highly exposed to jamming and electronic warfare, and that's because of strategic locations where Russian operations are occurring. So
was it the Russians?
I mean, this is, of course, this is Russian interference, but not necessarily aimed directly at the defense secretary. You know, they just did some major operations in Ukraine, including launching the Oreshnik missile, which is like a high-speed nuclear-capable missile, and hard to track down, detect. It did take the hit, and this was a big psychological move against Ukraine in retaliation for these long-range strikes on oil infrastructure inside Russia.
Was this incident with John Healey's jet, was this maybe a psychological attack? How dangerous could it have been? Or was it just, I don't know, in my own description, was it just trolling the UK?
It looks like it was a jamming and not a spoofing exercise. So what happens?
What does spoofing mean, sorry?
Yeah, there's a big difference between the two. So basically these satellite signals are fairly weak because they're coming from up in such a high orbit. And so you have a triangulation of different satellites that sort of give you this GPS timing and location. And they can be very easily interfered with by more local signals. And so by pushing out these sort of jamming signals, they interfere with the GPS because they're just louder and nearby.
So is it dangerous?
So it's only dangerous if you get into spoofing. I mean, it's not great, but when you start spoofing signals, then it makes it really hard for the aircraft to know necessarily exactly where it is. It makes landing difficult.
So spoofing signals would be, and correct me if I'm wrong, telling the plane you're at this altitude or something when you're at a different altitude? Or
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
Correct.
so that sounds very dangerous.
So jamming a signal can happen. It happens all the time in that region. You see this for in the waters that are near Russian activity. So the Black Sea's got lots of disruptions. You see that in the airspace too. Estonia is particularly vulnerable because it's right on the border, right? And so they get a lot of electronic warfare activity that's coming out of Russia. And anytime that Russia has something scheduled where they're going to do a big attack, they start doing heavy jamming. And the reason they do that is because they don't want NATO surveillance of their activity, and they don't want any of the NATO targeting information so that they can interfere with an attack.
So again, and sorry to sound pretty dense on this, but I suspect the viewers, or most viewers, I don't mean to insult you all viewers and listeners, but they're probably of my little knowledge when it comes to this kind of military conversation. So for example, when Russia maybe are getting ready for some sort of high level attack, maybe missiles or so on, they would jam surrounding signals so NATO satellites couldn't see from the air that their manoeuvring equipment and personnel are moving and so on.
Yes, any kind of surveillance coming from NATO, absolutely.
Okay. Do we do this? Do the Brits do this to anyone else?
Oh, well, we don't have a reason to do that normally, unless there's some sort of, I'm sure in the conflict with Iran, yes. But no, you have the capabilities absolutely there, but there's not a reason to do that.
And will the MOD ever be able to verify for sure that it was Russia? I know on the likelihood it was on the grand scheme of things, but
so yeah, they can verify to some degree where the signals were coming from. But what they won't be able to do is understand if it was on purpose or not. So certainly there's a lot of tension between Russia and the UK, tons of tension.
Well, that was my next question. What is Russia's problem really with the UK?
Well, the UK...
Because you always see on Russian television, the state TV channels and stuff, they do mock-ups of what a nuclear bomb would look like on London, how far the radius would go. I mean, they seem to really enjoy talking about the UK and how evil we are and how much they'd love to blow us up. What is the issue there?
So one, the UK is actually a significant force, and there's a lot of capability in the UK. And great history and an alliance with the US is definitely significant. But it's also because, going back to the days of there were poisonings in London, there's been a lot of tension between the two countries, and of course support for Ukraine.
Yeah, the Skripal poisonings.
Yeah.
I think there's more than one poisoning, wasn't there, actually?
You got a full 10 years of different agitations between the two countries. And so I'd say probably take it as a compliment, because if the Russians are looking at the UK, maybe there's something that they have a reason for that extra concern.
Well, yeah, it's a good point, because we hear a lot about how the UK armed forces are so dilapidated and we couldn't, stand up in a fight against anybody, and we're all a bunch of losers, according to the likes of Pete Hegseth. But as you said, if Russia is still focusing on us like this so intently and willing to jam signals of our planes and so on, then yeah, we must be some sort of threat.
Yeah, and I disagree with Pete Hegseth on this one, because I think that there's a significant capacity inside Great Britain to change that trajectory, and there's already a great deal of interest in establishing a stronger defense.
And just educate me, Kate, after the Second World War, where of course the Soviets played a massive part, what went wrong between the Soviets and the West? Just communism?
Well,
just the complete clash of ideologies? The non-trust?
Are you saying like throughout the Cold War or later?
Yeah, since the Second World War, yeah.
Well, I mean, there are always tensions between countries that have resource and geographical interests, and Russia has its own interests and its own conflicts. So I think that the West, there's definitely ideological reasons for this. there are cultural conflicts for sure.
So I mean, they are a white Christian nation predominantly. So I guess we do share that. I'm just confused about how it all went so wrong after the World War. Is it because the Soviets initially were siding with the Nazis? They were involved, of course, with Poland as well. Was there some distrust from that?
Well, it's about their own national strength. So the Russians are interested in their own self-interest, just as the rest of the every other sovereign nation should be. And so when they have conflicts on their borders and they have resource constraints and they look around and they might be a bit greedy at times too, when they look at Ukraine in particular, and they have a lot of cultural conflicts with Ukraine. But I think that much of the war is about creating a buffer zone, not just against NATO, but just a buffer zone in general.
Do you think President Trump was slightly ambitious in thinking he could get Putin and Russia on side over these past sort of decade, well, since 2016?
I think there have been moments when the Russians were much closer to having a ceasefire, but the problem is that they have a great lab right there. They're learning all about new developments in warfare, and so it's highly tempting to continue that. You know, they've also, and it's rather sick. They had an interesting conversation with a Ukrainian at lunch today, who's involved in drone warfare, and he was telling me about that. You know, we were discussing the loss of human capital on the Russian side versus the Ukrainian side. The most brave Ukrainians ran to the front lines to their death early on, where the Russians sent the populations that they would have preferred to get rid of.
Can I read you some comments from our viewers who are writing in as we speak on your say?
Sure.
Somebody said Putin is the bogeyman to take the distraction away from Islamist terrorism, and they go on to say about Putin being big on tackling Islamist terrorism. He also says Russia are Christian, they aren't the enemy. Ukraine supported the Nazis. I mean, it's a very sort of basic way of looking at things, but is there anything?
Well, not all of it. I mean, you have to remember Ukrainian children were also stolen by the Nazis, and there were resistance movements that were highly significant across Ukraine. And so I don't think it's as simple as that, and places also have their internal conflicts. In terms of Islamic terrorism, well, okay, so there is continued, there's collaboration on Islamic terrorism with Russia and NATO. It's historic and it's significant. There's been a calming period in that kind of collaboration. But I trust that is a continued collaboration. So even while countries are fighting with each other in every other way in proxy wars, they still have things that they will get along with.
Yeah, but then on the flip side as well, and again, I speak from a place of ignorance on this, but Russia allies itself strongly with Iran, and Iran, of course, the IRGC, all its proxies as well, Islamist, fundamentalists. So how do they square that, the Russians?
This is convenience. It's that sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and then they want to have a destabilization of American power. Israeli power is also need to be kept in check by the Russians in that region. So it's about balances of power. Most of the behaviors of big superpowers are about balance of power.
Interesting. I love speaking to you, Kate, because you're full of knowledge, you're full of expertise and wisdom, and you educate me each time, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Kate Jones, geopolitical expert, friend of the show. Keep those comments coming in, gbnews.com/yoursay. More coming up in the next hour on The Late Show Live, including this.
This is the high-speed train to Whisker from San Francisco to Los Angeles in 2.5 hours. It's open in 2020, didn't you know? And it was finished for $30 billion. Oh wait, it has still not laid any tracks.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Blue skies, sunshine, record-breaking temperatures all in the forecast through Bank Holiday Monday. And apart from the very far northwest of Scotland, where we'll see thicker cloud and some patchy rain at times through the course of today, it's actually going to be sunny for the vast majority of the UK, and the sunshine is going to be very strong, so we'll see high levels of UV, particularly across England and Wales. And the sunshine is very strong, as I say, so do remember to protect your skin from those harmful UV rays. It will turn very hot by this afternoon, temperatures into the low, possibly mid-30s for some of us, particularly in the southeast, so probably breaking the all-time May maximum temperature record of 32.8, with the potential for 34 to even 35 degrees in the southeast of England. So another very warm end to the day, plenty of sunshine, barely a cloud in the sky through the course of this evening if you are out enjoying your Bank Holiday Monday evening. running into a little bit more in the way of cloud, perhaps across Northern Ireland, but still some sunny spells to be enjoyed here. Likewise across central and southern Scotland as well. But northern Scotland still a bit cloudier, still bits and pieces of light rain and drizzle for the Highlands and perhaps Orkney and Shetland as well. But even here the rain will tend to fade away as we go through the course of the coming night. So turning mostly dry, clearer skies developing across the very far northwest as well. So it will turn into a slightly cooler night for the glens of Scotland. Otherwise though, particularly in England and Wales, another very warm and sticky night to come. Temperatures in the towns and cities perhaps not falling below 20 degrees Celsius, which we term a tropical night and pretty unusual, especially in May. But it means it's going to be a warm start to the day on Tuesday. Blue skies and sunshine for most of England and Wales. Sunny spells further north and a much brighter, dry day to come for northwest Scotland as well. A drop in temperature of some 10 degrees though for some North Sea coastal regions, so much cooler here. The peak of the heat across the Midlands and the south, where we'll once again see temperatures in the low to mid-30s, so once again feeling exceptionally hot for May.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
So look, we want hard work to pay, and people are sick of working long hours, taking on extra hours, and having less and less.
Reform says it will not tax overtime pay if they come into power. It sounds a little bit like a policy by President Trump.
We're continuing to get good call-outs on the first stage performance so far.
3, 2, 1, go. 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 3, 2,
first it was the moon with NASA and Artemis 2. Next it could be Mars with Elon Musk's SpaceX leading the way. They want to put 1 million people and create a city on the red planet. Would you go there? I'll speak to a space expert in just a tick who can tell me how realistic their ambitions are.
This is the high-speed train to whisk us from San Francisco to Los Angeles in 2.5 hours. It's open in 2020, didn't you know? And it was finished for $30 billion. Oh wait, they have still not laid any tracks.
I love this story. Steve Hilton is great. That is a Brit, David Cameron's former head of strategy, who is now running to be California's next governor. He's leading the polls, by the way. He's now promised to scrap the state's bullet train, which is costing more than $200 billion over budget and 30 years late. Where have I heard that one before? HS2, anyone? I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hello. Joining me in Washington is my panel, the foreign correspondent Sarah Firth and the senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson, and in London, GBNews superstar Paul Cox. Hello, Paul. Welcome back for your third hour. Right, let's move on to our main news story this evening. Nigel Farage has vowed to make work pay as he pledges to axe income tax on overtime. If Reform UK are victorious at the next general election, people who earn less than 75 grand a year and work over 40 hours a week will pay absolutely no income tax on those additional hours. Sound good? Do you agree? Estimates are that the tax commitment could cost, though, £5 billion a year to the Treasury. The Reform UK leader says this new policy will aim to benefit people who put in the extra hours and see no real reward at the end of the month. This was Reform's economic spokesman Robert Jenrick on Camilla Tominey's show a bit earlier.
So look, we want hard work to pay, and people are sick of working long hours, taking on extra hours, and having less and less. Can't take their kids to the cinema, can't go on holiday because taxes are going up, bills are going through the roof. Well, enough. Reform is for working people. We're going to put them first and foremost. And so under a Reform government, if you do overtime, you will pay no income tax whatsoever. It's going to come by cutting out waste.
Right.
We set out 40 billion of savings, not paying foreign aid to rich countries, not giving benefits to migrants who've come here, ending the small boats crisis, and above all, getting people who are choosing to be out of work back into the workplace. So no more disability benefit for mild anxiety.
If it sounds familiar, it's exactly what President Trump has done with his big, beautiful bill here in the United States. Let's get the thoughts of tax professor at San Jose State University, Annette Nellen. Annette, great to... Oh, sorry. Annette, sorry, let's go to you first. I was meant to go to a clip, but my apologies. Trump has done this in the United States, Annette, with the big, beautiful bill. I just wonder, is it working so far, Annette?
Well, so many people have claimed it. It started in 2025, and ours works on, it's the differential pay you get. So if you're normally getting 20 per hour and overtime is 30, the $10, you get a deduction for that. And it's only if it's under federal law that you're paid the overtime. Some people are paid overtime under state law. That would not count. Also, you do still have to pay Social Security tax on the overtime, and you might still owe state income tax on that overtime as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds a little bit complicated. Let's just look at that clip, which I conveniently skipped over. And this is President Trump talking about the big, beautiful bill. Let's take a look.
Big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time.
Well, that doesn't sound that bad, Annette. Family saving, what did he say, $20,000 a year?
Yeah, that's a large dollar amount. The overtime, for example, is $12,500 maximum deduction for a single person. If they're in a 10% bracket, they're saving $1,200. If they're in a 24% bracket, they're saving $2,400. You must be getting at like a combination of a whole host of special deductions. most people will see a smaller amount than that if it's just an overtime deduction they get.
And I guess in the example of the UK, where Reform, who are hoping to take government, they need to find that £5 billion from elsewhere. I'm not too sure how sort of familiar you are with UK Treasury receipts, but the £5 billion, I mean, it's not a measly number.
Yeah, it's a large number in the United States as well, and only about 9 or 10% of employees actually have federal overtime pay, so it's not actually benefiting all workers. And of course, it would not benefit somebody working 2 40-hour-a-week jobs, only if you have overtime from one job.
Okay, and it's not too dissimilar from the no tax on tips, of course, a separate policy, but how's that working out? Is that countrywide, where anybody who gets a tip by default, whether you're a federal worker or a private worker, you're not taxed? How does that work?
Well, I don't think federal workers get tips, but it's traditionally tipped industries, gig drivers, restaurant workers, food service, they often get tips. It's a pretty long list of people who get these tips. It's working well if you get the tips because it's income that you'll get a deduction for that, and in essence, you don't have to pay tax on it. But in the United States, you would still have Social Security taxes on it. I'm not sure how that works in the UK, if they would still have some additional tax on it. But certainly a federal income tax savings is not bad. If you're a tipped worker, it's a good deal.
Yeah, I guess if you are a government worker getting tips, they'd probably call that a bribe in the dictionary. Annette, thank you so much. Appreciate your company on the Late Show Live. Annette Nellen, tax professor at San Jose State University. Simon, does this sound like a good idea?
You've got to make work pay more than the dole. That's just the bottom line. Every headline I read about this from the UK says that the number of people who do better on benefits than they do working is rising, every month. I've driven a taxi, I've done construction, I've waited tables, I've done jobs where there's overtime, and it would have made a big difference to me not to have to pay tax on tips or to get overtime, and it would have inspired me to work harder, which would have made the economy, more effective, or at least in a small way. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. £5 billion, they could probably pay for it by stopping the small boats or cutting some other kind of benefit that maybe people don't need as much. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Well, Robert Jenrick there saying we'd cut net zero, foreign aid and so on. I'm sure there's plenty of avenues to find the money. What's your take, Sarah?
Well, Simon, we agree for once on something because I think it's a brilliant policy. I would just question, though, where they are going to find that money. I mean, maybe Farage could ask his cryptocurrency mate in Thailand, who gave him, what, 5 million? 5 million, yeah, so it's it's a couple of billion more, but maybe that's where Reform can get the money. Reform hold what now? Four seats? Do they? Is it four or
they
five?
Got 5 MPs.
5, and I think 4 out of the 5 have seen tax rises where they hold seats, despite promising.
Sorry, they've got 8 MPs.
They've got 8.
Yeah.
I know that a number, I think I'd have to double check it, but I'm pretty sure, it's this whole, again, it's Reform saying that they're like talking for the working class, and then, Farage, their head of the party, is under investigation for this 5 million gift, £1.5 million of which he spent on a house, and he didn't get to disclose it to Parliament, so he might be out if that investigation concludes. But the point is, where is the money going to come from?
The 5 million is for personal security.
But he didn't disclose it, despite that being parliamentary rule. But what is the rules? I mean, the investigation will decide that. But I think the more serious point, I mean, that's a serious investigation, is I just don't think that Reform have stood up their claims in the past. They've got really good slogans. I love Nigel Farage. I've known him for many years. But they need to back it up with action on the ground, and actually the work that they're doing with the people that they do have in seats currently in the UK, I'm pretty sure that the majority of the places that they now hold seats have seen their tax rise in those. You
mean the councils they run?
Yeah.
Right. Paul Cox, what's your thoughts on this? I think it's great, although many people commenting over the past day or so off the back of this story were saying, well, doesn't help me because I don't do overtime, but that's kind of besides the point, because many people do overtime, and actually many people as well don't bother doing overtime because actually after being taxed it's not worth it. They'd rather have a day off and try and sort of get some respite.
Yeah, I think it's potentially a very good policy. But the devil will be in the detail, of course, and when you make these broad-stroke policies that feel very, very good, often there are things underlying it, particularly within the civil service, etc., where they're already compensated in different ways through toil or time off in lieu, etc. The great news is, though, I've just checked, and Palantir are going to be rolling it out for reform. So it's something we can all get behind, including Sarah, I'm sure.
What are you saying, Paul? Boycott reform? That's not very GBNews.
That is going to be clipped. Just that bit's going to be clipped, and I'm going to be in lots of trouble, Sarah.
Brian on your say has said, Sarah, I live in Northamptonshire and we have a reform council. Our roads are being fixed. My council flat is fixed within 3 weeks. Our parks are now being revamped, apparently.
Fantastic. I mean, I will have to double check, but I'm pretty sure the majority of the councils under reform leadership, they've seen the tax rise.
Colin has said, I'm not rich, just hard-working average man, and you work your way up from 20k to 30k basic, then to 40k, pushing 50k. Don't be fooled with tax. It's not groundbreaking between 30 to 50k, and the more you earn, the less life you have, and you just think, what's the point? You feel like you'd be better off earning way less as you just get hammered in tax. This country is all wrong, so Nigel is right. Even if you copy Trump, I'd say well done, keep doing it. And what else have we got here? What about, Dom has said, what about not paying tax on your second or third job, Paul?
I don't declare any of my second or third jobs, actually, Ben, so I'm not going to pay tax on them anyway. But
excuse me, I'm just going to call HMRC.
Yeah.
What's the grass line?
HMRC don't watch this, Ben. Oh my God, he's calling them as well.
Hello. I've got a Chief Gammon here. He has 4 separate jobs. His name's Paul Cox. Portsmouth.
Yeah, I'm in all sorts of trouble now. What a snitch. Look, I agree with Simon. I mean, I always say that. I'm just going to record that and just play it to save my voice. But I agree with Simon in that you have to absolutely make work for the people. The way you reignite an economy is just that way, and you need to accompany it with accessible sovereignty of cheap fuel as well, which we don't have in this country. So we need our own sort of mini industrial revolution here, and this is one way to start it, I think.
And Karen has said, this is a really interesting comment, also for me, my overtime takes me into the higher tax bracket of 40%, so no tax would be pretty amazing for me personally. Yeah, there we go.
It's an incredible policy if they can fund it. I mean, it really is. The fact that we're taxing people who have to work the second job in the first place is just crazy. I mean, it's crazy that we do that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's move on to another story, one down my street. SpaceX have publicly released an investor prospectus this week, and it lifts the lid on both the finances and the future plans of Elon Musk's company. Scattered throughout the 300-page document are insights into the tech billionaire's cosmic ambitions. It outlines that to usher in human civilization's next evolution and expand the presence of humanity in the universe, they seek the ultimate goal of establishing colonies on the Moon and Mars. But this sci-fi rhetoric is underpinned by lucrative financial incentives as well. Musk will be rewarded 1 billion shares in the company if SpaceX achieves, quote, the establishment of a permanent human colony on Mars with at least 1 million inhabitants. I'm laughing because is that going to... Maybe if Elon was here... I've got his number, actually. I tried him yesterday. If Elon was here, he'd say, yes, it's possible in our lifetime, but I can't believe it. I mean, is this possible? We can establish colony on Mars with 1 million inhabitants, by the way? Maybe if you said, okay, we'll get maybe 20 or 30 people up there to see how it goes.
In your lifetime, if it was like a worldwide priority and we did nothing but, yeah, sure, we get 1 million people up there. I mean, we've all seen, the movies. I just watched Project Hail Mary, and was that Schwarzenegger movie about the colony on Mars where they kind of dug beneath the surface and everything was underground?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally possible. And he gets stuff done. That's what I love about Elon Musk. I mean, the Boring Company said traffic's bad. We'll go underneath. He's digging tunnels, and he's going to do it.
Right, let's speak to a man who is on Mars as we speak. This is a British American news first. Andy Lound, dialing in from the Red Planet. There is no delay because we've got great technology. Andy, Is this feasible? Elon Musk putting 1 million humans on Mars?
No doubt with Elon Musk, he'll aim for over 1 million people on Mars and probably hit the target of about half 1,750,000, which still would be a staggering achievement. I think the big push now is because of the very successful launch of version 3 of the Starship. That's very critical. A few tweaks on it, but generally speaking, very successful. Once you've got Starship fully operational, it can refuel in orbit, and this is the big tests, loads of tests to do in the next 18 months. But once they've got that vehicle being able to refuel in orbit, refueling in space, they then suddenly have opened up the entire solar system to us. So actually getting to Mars isn't going to be that difficult technically. The type of vehicle is also looking at, of course, this isn't a tiny little thing that sort of sends a few people up at a time. You could put tons of material as a cargo ship onto the surface of Mars, and it could carry up to 100 passengers, scientists, engineers, and so on, going to Mars. So if it's a matter of speed, getting the numbers there, that doesn't seem to be a problem if you could set it up. The next few years are going to be critical. We have perihelion oppositions of Mars. The best time to launch to Mars is every 26 months or so, and he's looking at doing 10 launches a day, which is quite staggering really, towards Mars during these up periods. And the perihelion opposition is even better in 2035 because that's where Mars is not only closest to the Earth, but it's also close to the Sun, and that reduces travel time as well. Now, if he's going to start getting the launch ratio of these going, there wouldn't be a problem getting supplies and equipment there. There are lots of other technical issues to deal with, of course, is building on Mars, surviving in the harsh Martian environment. But in it, to be quite honest, I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't be achieved if he really wants to. It's a question of resources and whether they can do it. Government resources aren't really there to do these kind of things, but private companies are. That's what's making the difference here. He can get up and do it. No one would have thought, for instance, he was going to be able to achieve this. No one would have thought, for instance, that we're likely to have a base on the moon. Big announcement is going to be made on Tuesday, for instance, about the lunar base. Take it, for instance, I mean, you just look about trains actually earlier, high-speed train in America. We've got high-speed train in Britain, HS2, which is going to cost over £100 billion, is going to be late, isn't going to operate till about 2040. By that time, a fifth of that cost would have put a base on the moon and had it operating. So you can see the difference with someone who can drive a project and who can't. Whether we should be doing it is another argument altogether, because of course we've got issues down here on Earth, and I think perhaps concentrating on the moon in the short term would be better. But once the technology is sorted, especially with the Starship, to be quite honest, the solar system opens up completely to us, and that's quite fantastic.
That's a bit deep for my tiny little mind, Andy. The solar system being open up to us, I mean, the universe would be our oyster. How long does it take to get to Mars, Andy?
Between 6 and 9 months, depending on the time period to actually launch to it.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not too bad. It's a long journey. You've got to deal with the radiation on your way there. Now, hopefully there's going to be situations to deal with it. But this is the big advantage of the Starship. It is such a big vehicle. You could have the facilities on board to deal with almost anything, and there'd be enough protection there during that mission. So that would be quite interesting. The journey time is cut down, obviously, if you can get it during what I call the perihelion oppositions. They're the big target dates. And as there's one coming up in 2035, I'm wondering if that's going to be the big target year that they're actually looking to getting lots of equipment, supplies, the building blocks and everything onto the surface of Mars. And at 10 launches a day in 2035, that would be an awful lot of equipment you could stop onto the surface there, and then you're just ferrying people.
Yeah.
So yes, it is looking more and more, surprisingly, this wouldn't be just a nice graphic behind me, it could be the real thing.
Have you heard about, Andy, this billionaire who is going to be the first commander of a private crewed mission to Mars using SpaceX? He's a Bitcoin mining billionaire from back in the day. So what's this guy doing? He's basically paid SpaceX to say, yeah, take me to Mars. They're going to do a flyby of Mars, just like Artemis 2 did a few months ago.
I mean, this is it. This is the whole thing now with the private sector situation and the style of the spacecraft that they've designed now, is private people could now actually hire the vehicle to take a mission to another world. Going to Mars, it's quite a big push to go for Mars for that. That's a brave thing to do, to actually do that. There's already, for instance, been a Japanese artist already hiring to go around the moon with SpaceX Starship. So that's already on the cards. So yes, why not? If you could hire vehicles to go into space. Again, this is really we've caught up with aircraft. It took aircraft design. It was very difficult to get it done. It was always going to be fighter planes, the military doing it. Then the private sector took over. Then rich people could hire aeroplanes to travel around the world. Then it became available for everybody.
Yeah,
we're going through the same phases for spaceflight now.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually. Andy, thank you so much. One last question. I love asking this question to people because it kind of it tells me about their personality. Would you go to Mars to become one of the first human beings to colonise the planet if you knew you would never be able to come back? You'd have to die on Mars.
Well, if you're looking at the Elon Musk program with a base and city on Mars, then probably I would have to say yes to that, of course. Why not?
Hey,
let's be realistic. I'm living in Britain at the moment, and in Birmingham, where we've got still dustbins everywhere. Trust me, I will go. I've even had my own models of the spacecraft being prepared and looked at to make sure I'm ready. So yes, I would go, yes.
Good man. Most people say no to that answer, and you'd probably get your bins collected more regularly on Mars than you do in Birmingham. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, Musk could organise it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you as always. Thank you so much, Andy. We'll catch up soon. Andy Downs,
bye-bye.
Great guy. So enthusiastic and knowledgeable about space.
What a suit as well. I'm obsessed. I need to get into details and find out where he got that from.
You can go to Mars.
I love it.
You can go to Mars with him if you want.
Do you know
Although
what?
Palantir are paying for the rocket.
Would you go?
I've always said that if I would be the first, if I was the Neil Armstrong of Mars,
yeah,
I would go because I would be forever remembered in human history. I would
leave your kids behind.
I would.
But wait, you know what? I've thought so long and hard about this. You know how Inuits, I think the Eskimos, they used to walk into, I don't know if they still do, they walk when they get to a certain age and they become a burden on society. They walk off it. No, they walk themselves.
The Inuit.
Yeah, Inuit. They walk off into the snow, and that's that. It's a very honourable, distinguished goodbye.
Gosh.
And so I really hope the timing works out, because I think that's like space exploration. If it hits when I'm like 60, 70, you've had a good long run with your kids. I don't want to burden them and have them to deal with all the funeral and all that nonsense. What a lovely, honourable, proud British way to go.
Well, that's kind of my thinking with Mars.
If you're watching,
Slightly
I'm the journalist for the job.
Way to go, compared to walking out in the snow, which is free.
Pay the kids' inheritance.
Jolly Roger has said on your site, Ben, there are more than 10 dimensions in our solar system. I discovered that, Jolly Roger, when I did a season in Ibiza when I was 19, so thank you for that. Paul Cox, let's get your thoughts on Mars. Would you go to Mars? Are we wasting our time as a as a race, as a civilization, trying to get there, or do you admire what Elon Musk is doing?
Well, there's three questions there. Would I go to Mars? No. I'm not as adventurous as you are, Ben. I'd probably go as far as Washington, D.C., which you've done comfortably. That looks quite nice there. Is it a waste of time? No, it's not a waste of time. You have to put these things, like you do this very well, you love this subject. You have to put these things in the context of humanity. If we were to go to Mars, just imagine how incredible that would be. Just unbelievably incredible. I'm not the man to do it. I don't like flying. I'm okay with flying, but, that's a long flight, and I'm not up for it. But I don't think it's a waste of time. Not at all. I think Elon Musk is doing some great things. Who knows what he might achieve by simply building the technology to get us there? Just getting us there could save hundreds of lives on planet Earth, because he might discover technologies that can save us here as well as going to Mars, Ben.
Yeah, who knows what will happen? I often wonder, my children are 3 and 6, and I often wonder what life will be like when they're, 60, 70. If you imagine how far we've come in recent decades, just the advancements in all sorts of things. I mean, even the Apollo 11 mission was only, 51 or 2 years ago? which really is not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And if you said to people 100 years ago, oh, by the way, in 50 years we're going to be putting a man on the moon and doing multiple missions on the moon, they probably would have laughed at you, like I'm very sceptical now about Mars. Sean has said, Ben, don't be fooled, there's already life on Mars. Look into the Martian Congressional Republic. It's a governing body that rules over 4 billion inhabitants of Mars and is one of the 2 human superpowers. Did you know about that, Paul?
I didn't know about that. They have kept that from me, Ben, but now I feel fully informed.
Lovely. OK, keep those comments coming in. gbnews.com/yoursake. Let's get a very quick look at your weather, not on Mars, but back home in Blighty.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Blue skies, sunshine, record-breaking temperatures all in the forecast through Bank Holiday Monday. And apart from the very far northwest of Scotland where we'll see thicker cloud and some patchy rain at times through the course of today, it's actually going to be sunny for the vast majority of the UK, and the sunshine is going to be very strong, so we'll see high levels of UV, particularly across England and Wales. And the sunshine is very strong, as I say, so do remember to protect your skin from those harmful UV rays. It will turn very hot by this afternoon, temperatures into the low, possibly mid-30s for some of us, particularly in the southeast, so probably breaking the all-time May maximum temperature record of 32.8, with the potential for 34 to even 35 degrees in the southeast of England. So another very warm end to the day, plenty of sunshine, barely a cloud in the sky through the course of this evening if you are out enjoying your Bank Holiday Monday evening. Running into a little bit more in the way of cloud, perhaps across Northern Ireland, but still some sunny spells to be enjoyed here. Likewise across central and southern Scotland as well. But northern Scotland still a bit cloudier, still bits and pieces of light rain and drizzle for the Highlands and perhaps Orkney and Shetland as well. But even here the rain will tend to fade away as we go through the course of the coming night. So turning mostly dry, clearer skies developing across the very far northwest as well. So it will turn into a slightly cooler night for the glens of Scotland. Otherwise, though, particularly in England and Wales, another very warm and sticky night to come. Temperatures in the towns and cities perhaps not falling below 20 degrees Celsius, which we term a tropical night and pretty unusual, especially in May. But it means it's going to be a warm start to the day on Tuesday. Blue skies and sunshine for most of England and Wales. Sunny spells further north and a much brighter, dry day to come for northwest Scotland as well. A drop in temperature of some 10 degrees, though, for some North Sea coastal regions, so much cooler here. The peak of the heat across the Midlands and the south, where we'll once again see temperatures in the low to mid-30s, so once again feeling exceptionally hot for May.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Yesterday we reported on the White House shooting here in Washington DC. Well, this reaction right here, take a look, it's gone viral. It was NBC's Julie Terskin, and that's become a bit of a meme. People accusing her of not having many survival instincts. Of course, we saw the one from earlier today, but the ABC news reporter who pretty much instantly dived for cover. She knew there were gunshots. Anyway, that reporter there, Julie, has, as I said, become a bit of a meme. Here are some of the best ones.
And it's very cool. Oh my gosh. Isn't that great? Just went up yesterday. Wow.
Oh, poor Julie. I feel a little bit sorry for her. Not everybody knows what gunshots sound like. Although she is American, so I think she. I mean, when there was a shooting outside my apartment, I knew it was gunshots. They're quite distinct. Anyway, Julie definitely has a sense of humour because she posted this. Let's take a quick look. She said, "Oh, there we go. It's a picture of her in a Roman's hat on her desk. What is that?" Do you feel sorry for her, Sarah?
I think she's brilliant. Look, I mean, it is really scary. Anyone who's been around gunfire and not knowing what it is, and it's a horrible experience. And I do feel for everyone who was there at the White House. And kudos to the Secret Service for eliminating the threat so quickly.
Yeah, we still don't know, Simon, how the young bystander is. I think he's a 16-year-old lad who was shot in the crossfire. 30 to 40 rounds rained out. And actually, I walked past the entrance today at the White House where the shooting was. All the shops across the road, the White House tourist shop, there's a coffee shop as well. All the glass is smashed where bullets were fired into the windows.
Yeah, I walk past there all the time, and I do hope that that young man survives. That seems like a lot of shots. But you were there and you probably talked to a lot of people and how it went down.
Yeah, actually, it's lucky it was raining in DC yesterday. It was pretty miserable weather, wasn't it? Because normally on a Saturday evening at 6 p.m, if we had the same weather we had on Monday, which is similar to what you guys at home, viewers and listeners, are having now, which is pretty decent summer weather, I'm sure it would have been packed. Normally that area is very, very busy, but I think the very fact that it was grey, grizzly, windy kept a lot of people off the streets. So I'd argue it could have been a lot worse. Julie posted on Twitter. She said, "I'm glad I could take one for the team with NBC on summer break. Thanks for the memes, internet. I hope you'll stick around for the reporting." I'm sure we will. Right, another great story coming up. Brit Steve Hilton. He used to work for David Cameron in Number 10 in Downing Street. He was his director of strategy. He's a British guy, British accent, although he's now an American citizen. He's given up his British citizenship. He's laid out a key part of his policy platform in California, where he's running to become governor. He's leading the polls. This was a clip he posted today about a massive, massive scandal to do with Gavin Newsom and the amount of money they're wasting on a proposed rail link. Take a look.
There it is, the flagship achievement of Gavin Newsom and 16 years of Democrat one-party rule. This is the high-speed train to whisk us from San Francisco to Los Angeles in 2.5 hours. It's open in 2020, didn't you know? And it was finished for $30 billion. Oh, wait, they have still not laid any tracks. When I'm governor, I am going to stop this thing in its tracks. Oh, wait, I can't because they haven't laid any tracks, but I'm going to stop it anyway.
So that project is apparently $200 billion over budget, 30 years late it will be by the time Gavin Newsom says it's ready. Sounds similar to HS2. That is a catastrophic gaffe from California.
Yeah, I'm just so curious though. Has he given up his British...
He's renounced his citizenship.
Do you need to renounce your citizenship to run for office in America?
Good question. You're an immigration expert, Simon?
Well, I've been in this exact situation because I was born in England and I became an American citizen. You have to renounce all allegiances to foreign potentates when you take the oath of citizenship in the United States. And it used to be disqualifying. We didn't allow dual nationality, but now we basically do. If you serve as president in a foreign country in a position of senior elected official, head of the army, something like that, then you're supposed to lose your nationality. But even that has been ignored in recent years. I've seen a foreign minister of state in a country that I happen to work in who was also a U.S. citizen. So.
Steve has renounced his British citizenship. He's quite clear about it as well, because when I interviewed him a few months ago, he didn't really want to get involved in commenting on British affairs because he's so focused. He is American, and he's got a governor race going on. He's leading the polls, and he's just not interested in the UK really, because he's just focused on improving and building California back up to its former greatness. I do wonder though as well with the thick British accent. I asked him. I said, "Do you not think voters are going to be put off that having an Englishman running your state?" Well, he said, "Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger did it." And
well, they find us quite charming, don't they, Simon? You find us charming.
Us. I don't think it's a positive. I mean, I think his policies are amazing. But California is a uniparty left-wing. It's Democrat state. I mean, overwhelmingly. So he's got a steep hill to climb, just like Spencer Pratt running for mayor of Los Angeles. But he's totally right. He's very good with the media. I think he was on Fox News for a while. Yeah. He knows how to tell a story, and the story of California is really bad. And Gavin Newsom, also, good-looking guy on camera. He can tell a story, but his story is a terrible one. I'm wasting billions of dollars not building a train, not solving homelessness, not cleaning up the streets, not rebuilding the Palisades after the fire, and I could go on.
And they've got the fires right now ongoing. In fact, is that chemical station still standing, or is it blown yet?
Unfortunately owned by a British company. I understand it's either going to leak, which would be bad, or blow up, which would be worse. But there doesn't seem to be an option 3.
Well, they're now saying it's cracked, so maybe that'll buy them a bit more time.
So what is this? Just explain to viewers. It's a chemical plant.
There is a chemical plant. They've got the wildfires again, and so it's the heat from...
I don't think it's anything to do with the wildfire.
Oh, is it not?
There was some kind of... it's a product that makes a chemical that you use to make plastic, and it's just highly volatile, and there was some reaction going on inside. 5 miles from Disneyland.
There it is on your screen now, actually. Yeah, there you go. Let's talk to Paul Dudley about this. He's on the West Coast in LA, I think, host of the Politics People podcast. Paul, what's going on with this chemical leak, just first of all? You know?
Nothing to do with me, first of all right? I was nowhere near. But yeah, it is, I think you just covered it. It is, the good scenario is it's cracking and venting. I think I want to say it's like methylene methacrete, I think is the gas that's been stored in Orange County, near Disneyland for some reason. It's important that we have dangerous petrochemicals right in urban build-up areas. And so, yes, it has cracked, it is venting. And I think there are tens of thousands of people that are being under threat of evacuation.
Evacuated.
It's a huge.
Can we blame Christian Bale? Gavin Newsom?
I've already done that. I've made it very clear that I'll blame, and because he's Welsh, as am I. But blaming Christian Bale. But yes, it's another red letter day for California under the fantastic gubernatorial skills of Gavin Newsom.
Steve Hilton, as we were talking about, this massive rail link that's being half built at present in California is going to be $200 billion over budget, 30 years late. I mean, it's just astonishing. $200 billion. What's going on? Steve Hilton rightly saying no track has even been laid yet. It was meant to stretch from the north of California, from one city, I've forgotten the name, down to LA, and now it's only sort of a quarter of that. I mean, it's very similar to HS2.
It's very similar to HS. It's uncanny actually that you're having this, and there must be something that we don't know because we're not politicians, that there must be some kind of incentive to have these boondoggles that never go anywhere. Los Angeles to San Francisco is the first stage, and then it was going to be expanded north to Sacramento, south to San Diego, and then across to Las Vegas eventually. It's going to be it's very, very difficult to get Americans out of their cars anyway, even if you give them a train. But what's interesting is there's been this gravy train for years, and Trump took funding away because he could see it was just going nowhere. It was this endless pit of money, just totally unaccountable, and nothing to show for it. Trump took $4 billion federal funding from it, and this has triggered Gavin Newsom. He first of all sued the federal government and then dropped the case, and this has now triggered him to sort of say, okay, we're going to get the money from the states and from various cities. So we've had 10 city mayors now standing up against Gavin Newsom because it's his pet project, and for some reason I think he thinks it's going to give him credibility and credentials to run for president. I think he'd have a much better chance of running for president if he scrapped the whole thing and looked like he was actually taking the use of taxpayer money more seriously.
Yeah, just good money after bad. And just tell us, Paul, about the governor's race in California. Steve Hilton, the former Cameron advisor, number 10, he is leading the polls, I think the last poll, by quite some way. However, there is some context. There's 2 Republicans running. The other one is Chad Blanco, who was a sheriff from... Riverside? So 2 Republicans.
Yeah, I think he's a Riverside. I think you're right.
So as it stands, all the Dems are basically fighting amongst themselves and splitting the vote. So that's partly why Hilton is leading the race so far. But there is a good chance he will make it to the final 2, isn't there?
There is a very good chance. He should be in the final two. And, you know, it's a jungle primary they have in California. Like, it could be two Republicans, theoretically, that end up as the contenders, the same as the mayoral race. He's doing really well. He's doing really well. My problem is, and I don't want to get too optimistic about this, it's like I think 38% of Californians voted for Trump. You know, we're always just under that sort of 40 to 45% problem. California has 45% of the, I think they call them now unsheltered, which is the homeless people that aren't on the street. Of the United States, 45% of the unsheltered population is in California.
Wow.
And, you know, I've been out, yeah, and this is the thing, and they're being registered to vote at an alarming rate. Quite legally, they're allowed to vote, you know, but California is one of those states where if there's a D next to the name, they will tend to win. Remember, Schwarzenegger won in my time because there was a recall election on the previous governor. He didn't stand in any race. There was a recall of the governor that he replaced. So there was a bit of a novelty to it, et cetera, and we were living in different times then as well. He seemed like the outlaw maverick. We've had Trump and everything since. So I think he's going to be in the final two. I just can't see him winning. It's just terrible. I hope I'm completely wrong, but the Republicans really have a tough time in California because there was this whole thing of amnesty for 6 million, I think, that came down from Reagan, and it changed the whole demographic voting system of California. We suddenly had 6 million previously illegals. Yeah, there was you can look it up. It's like that's what began the shift to the demographic in California, is my understanding.
Well, that's what they're doing now in the likes of Spain. Pedro Sanchez just granting 500,000 illegals amnesty to stay. And people say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist saying that the illegal migrant invasion of different countries is to harbour votes and change the demographic. I mean, it's not. If you just said they've done it there with Reagan, 6 million illegals given amnesty. I mean, that is proof in black and white. So it's just astonishing. Last question, Paul. You mentioned there that 45% of the United States homeless population is in California. That blows my mind. But what is the psychology behind those people? If they're homeless, and I guess they're living a pretty tough life, maybe a lot of them live under bridges and so on, and motorways.
Well, I want to make that distinction again. Sorry, can I make that distinction? It's the unsheltered. These are people without permanent homes. Okay, it's not just the homeless, so it's the without permanent homes as well. So it's not necessarily people on the streets. It's people who maybe live in without stable. But 45% of the U.S. population of that unsheltered. That's why I'm using that word. That's the word it's used now politely.
Important definition. I was going to ask why the homeless, or maybe in this case the unsheltered, would continue voting Democrat if their lives are very tough, and I guess they have been for quite a while. Why would you keep voting for the status quo?
Oh, because the status quo is actually very favourable. I mean, if you decide to live that lifestyle, you know, look at what's coming out from these gubernatorial and the mayoral elections. You know, you've got people like Pratt are saying we need to reopen want a better word, psychiatric institutions so that you can actually take people off the street. Democrats have no intention of taking anybody off the streets. What they do is subsidize people on the streets and subsidize their drug habits, etc. That is a pool of voters that they can always tap into. That is the incentive. And it's, you know, let's face it, if you're going to be in any climate, living in a kind of topsy-turvy lifestyle, California is not a bad place to do it, but you're subsidized by the political class. It's that awful buying of votes, basically. And like I said, I see it myself in downtown LA. We do some charity work downtown, and I see the Democrats out registering the homeless, the actual street homeless, to vote. And it's just like, I think you can assume that they're all going to vote a particular way.
That's pretty mucky behaviour. Paul, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'll hit you up next time I'm in LA. I was there last time when I knocked Billie Eilish's door. Do you remember at the BAFTAs? Well, not the BAFTAs. It's BAFTAs. At the what was it? The Oscars, when she said no human being is illegal or something. Yeah, the Oscars. So I went.
That's right. Yeah, on stolen land. Yeah.
Funny.
Brilliant.
Right,
I'd love to see you.
Appreciate it.
Right. Come by.
See you, mate. Did you know that about Reagan? giving amnesty to 6 million illegals.
It wasn't 6 million. He's talking about the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act. There was an amnesty in exchange for supposedly enforcement at the workplace. The idea was, we'll give you this one deal. I think it was around 3 million illegals.
That's still awful.
There's a lot of people, but trust us. In future, we're going to make sure that everybody has to show they have a valid work permit before they can work. And of course, they kept the first part of the bargain. They gave the amnesty, and they never kept the second part, which is to actually check ID. And then over years, there's been, so many people coming in and legalizing one way or another that, the demographics of California have changed permanently and substantially, which is why, it elected Ronald Reagan as governor, Richard Nixon as governor, not that long ago, and now the idea of a Republican in California, well, had Schwarzenegger, but at any other level in Congress, no.
Will it ever go back red?
I never like to say never. In U.S. history, 250 years, we've seen, the wheel turns. If people, right now it's an intra-Democrat contest. It's like you got to find a Democrat who's going to clean the streets up and fix things and, not build the railroad because there's no other option.
But I did think it was interesting. He was saying, it's a difficult place for a Republican to win. I'm like, well, right now for the Republicans, given the Iran war and the gas prices, they're going to have a hard time come November across the country.
$6.50 gas in California at the moment. Still the equivalent of about 90 pence a litre in the UK. I say, what are you moaning about? Shut it. Anyway, right, let's move on. One last story. A Tennessee high school graduation is drawing backlash after students and families were forced to sit through a soaking rainstorm Thursday during a ceremony. Take a look at this.
Sarah Grace Braun. Jocelyn Chelsea Brimmer. Brooklyn Michelle Bronda. Jacqueline Elizabeth Brown.
Crowd, I suggest, at these images. Graduates at Centennial High School in Williamson County, Franklin, walks the stage in heavy pouring rain on a football field as families questioned why the outdoor ceremony continued despite worsening weather, nearby lightning concerns as well, and slick conditions. Many attendees cited safety risks for students and the elderly guests, grandmothers and so on, who were watching their grandchildren graduate, while others said key moments of the ceremony were disrupted by the downpour. School officials, though, said they monitored forecasts and expected to finish before the next wave of rain arrived, but conditions changed during the event. While graduates still received their diplomas, the storm turned the night into a chaotic and uncomfortable experience, sparking frustration and criticism from parents over the lack of an indoor look at that guy, over an indoor backup plan. Paul Cox, if I graduated in that, I'd look at it as a bit sort of ominous. Is this going to be the theme for the rest of my life? Just sodden?
Look, I don't think that's the case. Actually, I actually looked at that and thought that's quite fun. It's very unique, isn't it? An incredibly unique way to remember such an important moment in a young adult's life. So whilst that was horrendous weather, I also think at the same time it was quite memorable. It'll bring about a certain camaraderie because of that. They'll all remember 2026 because of the downpour. And I don't think that the day you graduate sets the tone for the rest of your life. At least it didn't for me, I don't think.
Yeah, unless you're superstitious. Looks like a wet, windy night in Stoke, Simon. Nothing wrong with that if you're English.
Yeah, I'm just looking at those stacks of speakers there and thinking about the electronics and somebody speaking into a microphone, which seems incredibly stupid. I think maybe they should have had a plan B here and booked the gym or something just in case.
Yeah.
Well, look, as Brits, we can pass on our advice as downpour experts, and Americans watching, there is no such thing as bad weather, only
bad
clothing.
Bad clothing, yeah.
And some of them are doing great.
Yeah, she's smart, that one there.
Yeah. They got the raincoats on.
Did you go to university, Sarah?
Of course I did, Ben.
Well, I didn't.
You didn't?
Well, that's not a default.
Did you not?
I never went to university. I went to the School of Hard Knocks. What did you study at uni?
Law.
Law?
Would you believe?
Did you obviously went to uni?
Why, obviously? Why,
I don't know. You're quite a well-mannered, intelligent man.
I had to suffer through 3 degrees. Yeah.
3 degrees.
What are they?
I went to undergrad in history, and then I did law in London, and then I did counterterrorism at our National Defence University.
That's fascinating. Which law university did you
It was called the College of Law, but it's now the University of Law. They got an upgrade. I just walked past it, Store Street.
So you did counterterrorism at university?
I did a master's degree in counterterrorism at the National Defense University right here in DC.
I mean, you could have done gender studies or something, or media studies. That would have set you off better?
It would have been, yeah. I don't think it existed back then, at least not. And it certainly wouldn't be paid for by the taxpayers as my degree was.
Yeah.
Probably is now, but...
Paul Cox, did you go to university? Would you have graduated in such conditions?
I did my first degree in prison. I came out of prison aged 9. And I obviously, I'd learnt the error of my ways. No, I did all of my tertiary education as a day release from the job I was doing at Serco. So I have an electronics degree, and I don't know why I keep mentioning Serco tonight, but I'm very grateful for the education they give me.
Don't you? You're not starting a migrant HMO, are you, Paul? Is that what you're doing?
No,
is that your side job which you're not declaring to HMRC?
No, they're all just, that's the pole dancing, obviously, and obviously I'm a newsreader for the BBC, so I don't want to tell anyone about that. But no, I did a degree in electronics. I never had a graduation in the traditional sense. I did everything, day release, evening school, and then I got made redundant from that job, and I managed to convince, this is why I'm grateful to Serco, not for anything else, is as part of my redundancy I said, look, please will you finish paying for my education? And they did. Even though I finished 2 years after I left the company. So big thanks to them, and sorry for all the things they've done.
I love that I genuinely don't know whether he's joking or not about the release from prison at 9 years old. This is the start of a beautiful friendship, Paul.
No, it's, well, I don't like to talk about it. I was 7. We all make mistakes.
Anyway, it'll toughen those kids up. Look, it's very, very British to just get on, keep calm and carry on, guys. I think that was wonderful of them to just get on with it.
Yeah, well done. As I said, it reminds me of Rishi Sunak during his infamous resignation speech in the rain, which he never needed to do. The Rwanda flight was about to take off, the first flight months later. Who knows why? I mean, that's one of the great political mysteries, actually, why Rishi Sunak did that. Yeah, I never went to university. I actually worked I worked for EDF Energy. Working with SMEs and buying and selling energy, and also retentions. And I also worked for the Water Board, so apparently I love utilities. And then when I was about 21, I got into journalism.
See, journalism is, I'm all for apprenticeships, because if I had an opportunity to, get down and dirty in the newsroom, I would have definitely skipped university.
You don't need to go to university if you want to be a journalist. In fact, you're wasting your time, because in the UK, you'll do a 2 or 3 year degree, and as part of that degree, you'll do a qualification called the NCTJ, which is the National Council for the Training of Journalists. I did that qualification in a fast-track 3-month course. It was intensive, 6 days a week, many, many hours. I did it, I passed it, I qualified, and then I went and got a job at my local newspaper. Well, I had work experience, then they offered me a job. And that's how it started. I didn't need to waste my time at university going there for 3 years at risk of getting indoctrinated by Marxists and getting into debt.
Well, it's more the cost these days. Yeah, the cost in the UK of a degree is just appalling. I mean, getting students, and you guys have it in America, don't you? Just
yeah, and it's not worth it for everybody. We desperately need plumbers, we need HVAC technicians, we need people who can do things, and we're training, like I say, gender studies graduates who will not find a job. So.
Okay, Paul Cox, last question very quickly. What are you up to tomorrow?
Hoping to play golf, but I might have to do it later in the day, Ben, because it's rather toasty down here.
Yeah, I'm not jealous. Simon, what are you up to?
I'm staying inside.
Why?
Because it's probably going to rain and the town will be crazy. I might go and see Rolling Thunder, the motorcycle parade of the veterans.
Yeah.
It goes right
in town,
close to where I live. It's worth seeing.
Sarah, what are you up to?
I might take my little son to that.
He'd love it.
He's big into, well, I hadn't decided. I was going to maybe do something Arlington Cemetery for Memorial Day.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, it's Memorial Day, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and to all Americans out there watching, and to our British counterparts.
Indeed.
Thank you for your service.
I am working tomorrow. If it's raining, I may go for a walk in the rain, because being English, I love walking in the rain. It clears the cobwebs and it's great. Thank you so much, guys, for tonight. Simon, Sarah and Paul Cox, thank you very much, as always, my friend. Hopefully see you soon, and viewers and listeners as well back in the UK. Enjoy your bank holiday Monday, enjoy the weather. For now, I'll see you tomorrow night for midnight. Sweet dreams, good night, bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Blue skies, sunshine, record-breaking temperatures all in the forecast through Bank Holiday Monday. And apart from the very far northwest of Scotland where we'll see thicker cloud and some patchy rain at times through the course of today, it's actually going to be sunny for the vast majority of the UK, and the sunshine is going to be very strong, so we'll see high levels of UV, particularly across England and Wales. And the sunshine is very strong, as I say, so do remember to protect your skin from those harmful UV rays. It will turn very hot by this afternoon, temperatures into the low, possibly mid-30s for some of us, particularly in the southeast, so probably breaking the all-time May maximum temperature record of 32.8, with the potential for 34 to even 35 degrees in the southeast of England. So another very warm end to the day, plenty of sunshine, barely a cloud in the sky through the course of this evening if you are out enjoying your Bank Holiday Monday evening. Running into a little bit more in the way of cloud, perhaps across Northern Ireland, but still some sunny spells to be enjoyed here. Likewise across central and southern Scotland as well. But northern Scotland still a bit cloudier, still bits and pieces of light rain and drizzle for the Highlands and perhaps Orkney and Shetland as well. But even here the rain will tend to fade away as we go through the course of the coming night. So turning mostly dry, clearer skies developing across the very far northwest as well. So it will turn into a slightly cooler night for the glens of Scotland. Otherwise though, particularly in England and Wales, another very warm and sticky night to come. Temperatures in the towns and cities perhaps not falling below 20 degrees Celsius, which we term a tropical night and pretty unusual, especially in May. But it means it's going to be a warm start to the day on Tuesday. Blue skies and sunshine for most of England and Wales. Sunny spells further north and a much brighter, dry day to come for northwest Scotland as well. A drop in temperature of some 10 degrees though for some North Sea coastal regions, so much cooler here. The peak of the heat across the Midlands and the south, where we'll once again see temperatures in the low to mid-30s, so once again feeling exceptionally hot for May.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the...
unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to...
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told?
Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Stop. We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The GB News audience is different, it's unique, because they see through the nonsense.
We want to debate with each other, we want to listen and maybe learn.
We have a chat. That's what we do. We try and have a chat.
They'll watch my programme while they're eating their tea, they'll watch breakfast while they're busy getting their kids ready for school.
We want to hear what matters to you, what is news for you.
And what's brought you out here today?
What are the biggest issues affecting this particular area?
The audience are the best thing about GB News.
Their friends, their family. They're people who need to have their voices heard.
They're passionate about the channel, they're passionate about what they believe in.
The one thing about GB News is you get a chance to speak.
Talk to me about why so many people have gathered here today.
Do you want to say something back in return? The GB News audience is what makes GB News special.
It's incredible to see.
They shape our programmes, they shape our output, and they shape our channel.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening, it's 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight.
The fact that you're doing this during people's GCSE and mock times make us think you have no sympathy or consideration towards your students.
Yeah, it seems radical Marxists are infiltrating our schools and poisoning the minds of our children with divisive far-left ideology and things like white privilege races.
Something just doesn't add up in Accrington. The place is filled with vape shops and barbers, but there aren't enough customers for the vape shops or blokes needing their haircuts.
Yeah, I've got a broadcast exclusive with investigative journalist Zach Garner-Perkis on the show tonight. He's talking about a town overrun with vape shops and Turkish barbers. Trust me, it's as shocking as you think it's going to be. And
this is the first step to creating a future where performance, integrity, and science advance forward together and unlock our true human potential beyond elite sports.
Well, today is the start of what's being dubbed the Steroid Olympics, an event where you can be as jacked up as you like and compete in competition with others. Is this really a positive thing for our society and the health of others? And also, Reform UK has vowed to scrap the Cabinet Office if they won an election. Well, why have they done this? And will it really make a difference to our political system?
What do you say to your victims, Hugh Edwards?
Well, Channel 4 are reportedly in talks to do a documentary with the disgraced Hugh Edwards, the former BBC news anchor who was sentenced for possessing indecent images of children right off the back of the Married at First Sight rape scandal. Should the whole station just be shut down at this point? Oh, and also, right, well, of course, today, migrant crisis is heating up with the weather, isn't it? Over the bank holiday weekend, we expect over 1,000 migrants to have crossed the Channel and broken into Britain. And on my panel tonight, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, political commentator Emily Hewitson, and former Labour advisor Matthew Laza. And of course, you all have heard of Katie Price. Her husband is missing at the moment, supposedly, and she just released this today to help find him.
You can reach me by sailboat, climb a tree and swim off to road.
Yes, that is Katie Price singing there, by the way. I'll play the full clip for you later. It's brilliant. Huge 2 hours coming up on the show tonight. But first, we're going to get your news with not my cousin, but it is Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 9. Your headlines. Donald Trump says negotiations with Iran are proceeding constructively, but he's told officials not to rush into a deal. The US president says Tehran must understand they can't have a nuclear weapon, adding the US blockade on Iranian ports will remain in full force until an agreement is reached. He also said, unlike those before me who should have solved this problem many years ago, I don't make bad deals. Well, the American news outlet Axios says the agreement would include a 60-day ceasefire, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and a commitment not to further Iran's nuclear program. The Prime Minister says it's right to urgently review sentences in rape cases where teens are spared jail. Sir Keir Starmer says a case this week in which two 15-year-old boys were given non-custodial sentences for raping two girls in separate incidents in Hampshire was appalling. The judge at Southampton Crown Court said he wanted to avoid criminalising the children unnecessarily. The sentence will now be reviewed by the Attorney General. A huge fire broke out earlier in Hackney in East London. 6 fire engines and around 40 firefighters were tackling a fire on Cottrell Gardens. A static caravan and 2 cars were alight, as well as part of a grass embankment. The cause of the blaze remains unknown. Meanwhile, emergency services in Northern Ireland were working to extinguish a blaze at a recycling site near the city airport in East Belfast. Police are advising motorists to avoid the East Twin Road near the city's Titanic Quarter. At least 220 asylum seekers have arrived in the UK illegally today. The total of small boat arrivals this year is 7,600. That is down 44% on the same time last year and down 23% on 2024. Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, says some 60,000 unsuccessful asylum seekers have been removed, and he says small boat crossings are down, but accepts there's more to do.
It is unacceptable, it's not legal, it is organised by criminal gangs. That's why we're doing everything we can to get those numbers reduced, but also to make it harder for people who come here illegally to stay here. If you've got a legal right to come here to work or to be a student, or because we need you to help fill a shortage occupation, then follow the proper process and you'll be welcome and integrated on that basis.
It's been the hottest day of the year so far, again in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Temperatures reached 32.1 degrees at Heathrow earlier. The Met Office says heatwave conditions were met in 8 parts of England. And it is set to continue. A new record for May, likely to be recorded tomorrow, surpassing the 32.8 degrees set in 1944. Amber alerts remain in place for parts of England until at least Wednesday. The advice: stay hydrated, avoid tea and coffee, and alcohol. And Tottenham have beaten Everton to ensure their Premier League survival. It meant West Ham were relegated on the final day of the season. Spurs knew a win or a draw would keep them up. Joao Palhinha's 43rd minute goal. It was the only goal of the game, and that avoided a first relegation for Spurs in 49 years. And that meant West Ham's 3-0 win at home to Leeds had no bearing. Their 15-year stay in the top flight is over. Elsewhere, Sunderland beat Chelsea. They've qualified for Europe. Arsenal lifted the Premier League trophy after beating Crystal Palace. And Arsenal fans took to the streets of Islington. This is Holloway Road, not far from the Emirates Stadium, celebrating their first title since 2004. You're up to date with the headlines. Now it's back to Alex.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Radical Marxist activists are hijacking Britain's schools.
Let's do it for Palestine, Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza. It's about time we globalise the Intifada.
Well, that man there is Daniel Kebede, the head of the NEU, an avowed Marxist, by the way, who has openly declared the British education system is fundamentally and institutionally racist. Well, at a Socialist Workers' Party Marxism conference, he said strikes are about taking back control of an education system from a brutally racist state and reorganising society where we are free from racism and free from oppression. Right, so we can assume from that that the strikes aren't about teachers' working conditions or their pay. Is that right? Is it any wonder when people like this man run massive unions that you see scenes a little bit like this?
It takes guts to talk in front of you guys. No, it does. Don't be rude. The fact that you're doing this shows people's GCSE GCSE and mock times make us think you have no sympathy or consideration towards your students. Complete backs towards. That is so disrespectful as a human being, let alone a teacher. Well done for showing who you are.
45 days of strikes in 4 years at that school, by the way. Teachers there draped in Palestine flags, holding up anti-racism banners. They say that they're protesting working conditions, but none of them seem to have banners that show that they are protesting working conditions. They seem to have all the ideology banners, don't they? And bravo to those kids, by the way. And then you also get scenes a little bit like this one.
This activity is intended to explore how society favours one race over others.
People often confuse white privilege with being wealthy or being rich, and it isn't about that. What it's about is the absence of having to live with the consequences of racism.
Now, if the question applies to you,